Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun, enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Sack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Michigas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. Not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
What's up, Cupcakes? What's up, Cupcakes? Happy Friday. It's Friday Fun Day, May 15th, 2026. I can't believe May's halfway over. It's halfway over already. How's everyone? If you got the notification, good. If not, it's because I just scheduled this about an hour ago because I've been outside working in the backyard all day. It's been so beautiful. It's been so beautiful. I couldn't don't burn the day away, like Dave Matthews says. Don't burn the day away. Can't do it. Can't do it. Just could not sit inside when it was so beautiful today. Sorry, not sorry. And then I got sidetracked because I was listening to Peter Tragos on Lawyer and he's doing his Friday series on the Edric Foss trial. And so I got sucked into that. And it was like, I have so many things to talk about, but I don't know what to talk about. There's so many things I could talk about. I have self-diagnosed ADHD, and it got the better of me. So I just did. I'm a procrastinator. I'm a procrastinator. I just procrastinate. I do my best work under pressure. It might not be my best work today, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Because the Karen Reed opposition to the Haas defendant's motion to dismiss in federal court is something like, I don't know. Somebody do the math, 1,463 pages or 1,643 pages, something like that. And most of it is attachments and exhibits. So the motion itself is about, the opposition itself is about 30 something pages. And I'm too oh, look, something shiny today that I can't read the whole thing to you. It may take more than one show to get it done. We may just talk about some parts of it. Some people don't like being read to. Some people do like being read to. I'm not a cupcake. I can't make everybody happy. Some people like when I read to them because they don't even know how to access the documents. ADHDers say hi. Hi. Oh, look, something shiny. So many of you sent me this picture that Kelsey Fitzsimmons posted on, I guess it was the Facebook. Take a look at this. Take a look at this, everybody. This is Kelsey Fitzsimmons' dog, Maverick. Look, we love our cupcakes. Thank you, she posted. And look at what Maverick is wearing. It's an I went to Cancun with attorney Melanie little bandana because somebody sent Kelsey, I guess, some cupcake merch and said from the cupcakes. Because you know why? Because you guys are amazing. You're amazing. And Kelsey also has a message for you. She asked me to tell you this. So hold on a second. Hang on. She wants all of you to know, especially the cupcakes. The cupcakes. This is for you. This is for you. from Kelsey. She says that she just wants all of you to know how absolutely generous and amazing you have all been to her. How you made me feel so purposeful with your kind words when she was in the lowest place of her life. She says, I would read their letters every night before bed when I was in jail. It made it the last thing on my mind before I went to sleep each night. She says, they have no idea, but you and them have gotten my family and I through so much. There are not enough hugs I could give them to show how grateful I am. I hope to come on your show soon to say this myself. There's just a lot pending right now, so I have to lay low. It doesn't take away from how grateful and loved I feel. And that is from Kelsey Fitzsimmons to all of you. My cupcakes. I didn't know Kelsey Fitzsimmons when I first started covering her story at all. This is the first time we have ever communicated directly long after her trial was over and long after she was released from jail. And doesn't it give you a really good feeling to know that the things that you did really made a difference for somebody who was in a really horrible place at a really low point in her life, and you made a difference. You did. And her fight's not over, but she's so grateful to all of you. And she's so selfless, and she's just really appreciative for your letters, for your support, for your donations to her defense fund. She had to sell her house to pay her attorney's fees. And now she's in the midst of what hopefully will be a soon to end custody battle. I don't know. I didn't talk to her about that. And to finally get her baby back and to be able to see him even in small increments at first. I think there's a hearing coming up soon. And remember, there's sort of a step up in visitation. She gets to see her son, her baby, for every other weekend and on Mother's Day, she got him for longer. So it's like 4 hours every other weekend, Saturday and Sunday, supervised at first, but, not in a center, at a family member's house. And then it's going to be after a month, I think, Wednesday nights also. And then her mother can supervise on Wednesdays. And so look, baby steps, right? It's baby steps. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? I know, she's awesome. We had talked about she wanted to come on the show. And then it was, it's not the right time yet. It's just not the right time yet. And I feel so protective of her, even though I don't even know her. And she's not one of my children, but she could be. She's young enough. I mean, she's the age of my children. So she could be. And I feel very protective of her. And so it's amazing. It's amazing that a community like you can really make a difference to somebody who is really in need. And I love that about you so much. Oh, here's Mazza. And Mazza also doing the Lord's work, raised tons of money for Kelsey's defense fund. He's one of the best. Mazza is very, very selfless. And you guys are awesome, right? Yeah, of course, right. We are protective. Glamous's, we are very protective. It's not unusual that she should have to pay for supervision. Don't be horrified by that. That is not unusual. It's not unusual here, so I don't think it's unusual in Massachusetts either. But look, that's why your donations count, right? I have no idea how much it costs to pay the supervisor to come and supervise the visitation. Like, it's probably a per hour cost, and I don't know how much it is. But you know what? That's why your donations help. Your donations help. And so every dollar counts, and you guys are amazing. Yes. And Juju Julia says, I really applaud her strength and her maturity. I know. Listen, she's been through it. She's not even 30 yet. And this girl has been through it. She's been a corrections officer. She's been a police officer. She completed half of law school. She got shot in the chest. She had 5 life-saving surgeries. She spent 103 days in jail, 53 days in the hospital fighting for her life. She's lucky to be alive. and she did not see her son for something like 10 months, between the ages of 4 months and 14 months. Girl's been through it. It's not over yet, but you know what? I have a feeling that whatever comes her way after this is going to be a piece of cake. And whatever she decides to do with the rest of her life in her professional career, I'm sure she's going to make a big difference. She's going to make a big difference. And I'm so proud to have covered her case and to have all of you who really made such a difference. Such a difference. Candace says, our community here is pretty amazing. All the people here are so kind and caring. It's true. Mazza says he's so grateful that we all came together to help her. I know. I think about the people who are out there. She's not the only one. Edric Foss still needs our help. He's sitting in a prison somewhere. And I'm still, I'm still upset about it. I'm still upset about it. And I'm glad that your lawyer, is covering that case, because it's going to bring a fresh set of eyes to the case, and more people are going to learn about it. And I don't know which way he's going to land on it, but I know which way I landed on it. Too much reasonable doubt. Too much reasonable doubt. Here we go. All right. No, it's just different lighting today. No, I got my color done. When did I get my color done? About a week ago. Thank you, though. Thank you, though. Yes, Krebs Haskell said that. Peter Trago said that his dad would have ended up in prison dealing with that judge. And I was watching, and I didn't want to go into the chat and distract, because sometimes it can be distracting for a creator when somebody's in the chat and people are saying hi, and it's just like weird. So I was thinking the same thing, though. I'm like, I would end up in prison too. I would have been held in contempt because I can't shut my mouth, and my face has subtitles. And good thing I was never a criminal defense attorney, so I didn't have someone's life hanging in the balance in court. Represented plaintiffs, and so I'm always there. I'm always lurking. I'm lurking. I lurk. But sometimes it can be distracting if I go into the chat, and I don't like to pull focus away. I don't like to pull focus away from what they're talking about. Oh, please. All right, so it's Friday. We've got a motivational quote of the day. It is Robert McKee, M-C-K-E-E, said, storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. Kelsey's writing. She's writing. For those of you who have subscribed to her Substack, you should check it out. She's releasing a lot of her writings, things that she wrote in jail. And other things. Here's the empowerment cards. Let's pull one for the day. There we go. There it is. This is really good. This is deep. All right, let me know if you needed to hear this today. Old ways won't open new doors. Old ways won't open new doors. Substack is I don't really know how to describe it, Coco. It's like a platform for writers where Andrea Burkhart has one. She publishes a lot of articles. I really don't know how to describe it because I don't have one. So I really don't know. It's like Discord. I don't know what that is, and I don't want anything to do with it. If somebody can put in the chat what exactly Substack is, it's like a subscription that you can buy to a writer. Is it mostly for writers? Just remember, old ways won't open new doors. How do you get to it? That's a great question. It's like Patreon, but for writers. See, I don't even know what Patreon is, Miss Scarlett. I don't know. I guess you could go to substack.com and search for Kelsey Fitzsimmons. I mean, that would be my guess. So let me know. You can't put links in the chat, so that's not going to work for you. Before we get to the Karen Reed stuff, I got a couple things. A couple things came on my radar today that I really wanted to share with you, one of which kind of freaked me out a bit. So, when I get freaked out, I like to share things with you because That's what we do here. It's not just law. It's not just comedy. It's not just commentary. Also, when something freaks me out, I want you to know about it. Did you hear about the Wayward Waymos? The Wayward Waymos in Atlanta. Okay, a Waymo is a self-driving car that's like a taxi, and there's no driver. It just drives you around without a taxi. And without a driver, I mean, it's a taxi that drives you without a driver. First of all, you would never catch me in a million years ever going in that thing, ever. And here is a good reason why. Look at this. Look at what happened in this Atlanta neighborhood. Check this out.
Wayward Waymos. This video here captured several of the self-driving cars just clogging up a neighborhood cul-de-sac. The people living in the Northwest Atlanta neighborhood say dozens end up circling their community. Channel 2 Steve Gelbach is on one street where they want the Waymos to stop.
No way. No way. No way. What was that? There was a movie with Sandra Bullock, and it was a bunch of Teslas. It was like the end of the world was coming. I think it was Sandra Bullock. All the Teslas wound up like clogging up the roads because there was like something went wrong with the chip in the system. I don't really remember. It was a good movie though. This is insane. Dara's telling me that Substack has an app in the Apple Store. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Other People's Drama is telling us that they're everywhere in Atlanta, everywhere. I'm never doing it. Never.
It's almost every little cul-de-sac around our area. So I think it's a real problem.
Waymo after Waymo after Waymo enter this dead-end street, usually early in the morning.
I think yesterday morning we had 50 cars that came through between 6 and 7.
Neighbors on Battleview Drive started seeing the autonomous driverless cars 2 months ago, but the groupings and large number of Waymos just started circling in and out in the last couple weeks. They even shared video with us when neighbors used this little guy to put him right out here in the street to block the Waymos from getting into the cul-de-sac, and you can imagine what happened next.
And we had at one point 8 Waymos that were stuck trying to figure out how to turn around.
The Waymos are empty and not picking anyone up. Parents are worried, not only calling it excessive, but dangerous.
For families, we have...
It's like post-apocalyptic. What? They're just driving around little cul-de-sacs because they don't have anywhere to park. These are like taxis with no driver. Hell no. No, there's no driver in them. There's nobody in them. That's what's so creepy. I guess because they have nowhere to park, so they just ride around. I don't think there was a hack. Nothing. No, this is what they do. They just drive around.
Kids, we have animals and pets. We've got kids getting on the bus in the morning.
And then look, they put up the little "Don't come in here" sign because kids are playing, and it somehow it makes these things turn around. And then look, they get all clogged up and they have nowhere to go. Yeah, no Waymo, nurse not lawyer. Exactly, no Waymo, no thanks.
And not picking anyone up, parents are worried, not only calling it excessive, but dangerous.
For families, we have small kids, we have animals and pets. We've got kids getting on the bus in the mornings, and it just doesn't feel safe to have that traffic.
Neighbors reached out to Waymo and have not got a response. They've also contacted their council member, representatives, and GDOT, and don't know what to do.
We would just like to see them stay on main traffic roads. I don't think there's any reason to be on small residential cul-de-sacs if they're not picking up somebody.
Steve Gelbach, Channel 2 Action News.
Meanwhile, Waymo is recalling thousands of its cars because of a software issue. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Look at this reporter. She has having none of it. She's like, not only did she just report on the story, she's like, meanwhile, her face has subtitles too. Waymo has recalled several of her cars. Look at, just watch her. I love her. This is Atlanta news for you. Look at her. She's amazing. Her face is telling us everything.
Waymo is recalling thousands.
Steve Gelbach, Channel 2 Action News.
She deserves a rewind. I don't know her name, but I wish I did. Here we go.
Meanwhile, Waymo is recalling thousands of its cars because of a software issue. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the self-driving cars detect flooded roads, but still continue to drive through them. Waymo says a software update will help. However, the company admits it has not fully solved the problem.
Wow. Wow. Oh, look. I love it when I end a video and it shows my video as a recommended video. Wow. Just wow. Just when you thought the world wasn't getting any crazier. All right. You guys, I've told you about the trial starting Monday. Alvin Campbell Jr. It is happening. Monday is opening statements in Suffolk Superior Court in Massachusetts. I still don't know if it's going to be live streamed. I know the judge is allowing a camera in there. I still don't know if anybody's going to live stream it like Boston 25, like Boston 10. So we are in a holding pattern right now. But for those of you who don't know, finally, well, Mass Live picked it up today. And I'm gonna give you a little rundown about this trial that's starting on Monday because we're covering it. Andrea Campbell, who is the Attorney General for the state of Massachusetts, her brother, Alvin Campbell Jr., is on trial starting Monday. Law girls are not going. It's in Boston. It's hard to get to. It's parking and the whole thing. Alvin Jr., his daddy and his granddaddy apparently were organized crime in Massachusetts. You can look it up in Wikipedia. Is on trial. We went over a bunch of it the other day. But Alvin Jr. is his trial starting Monday with opening statements. He is on trial for graping 9 women, filming it on his phone, and posing as an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, and picking up very intoxicated women outside of Boston bars. The Harp was one of them. What was the other bar? In fact, he's been doing this since like 2016, 2017, and I'm going to submit to you for way longer than that. Many of the women who are going to testify at the trial who were essayed by this man did not even know it. The way that Boston police got to them was because they got a warrant for his iCloud. And when they got to his iCloud, they found many, many other victims who were videotaped by this guy. And they found the women and they reached out to them because this dumbass monster, innocent until proven guilty, of course, took pictures of things like their passports and they were also in his iCloud. All right. So I just want to give those of you who are here right now a little taste of Andrea Campbell's brother, Alvin Campbell Jr., and what he did. And this finally was picked up by Mass Live. Charlie McKenna, who did a lot of reporting, I think, on Karen Reed and Aidan Carney. More than 6 years after he was indicted for the first time, Alvin Campbell Jr. will face a jury this month as his trial on numerous grape charges gets underway. Campbell, who is the brother of Massachusetts AG Andrea Campbell, has been indicted 3 times in connection with the grapes and assaults of 9 women over the course of 3 years from 2017 to 2019. Prosecutors say he posed as an Uber driver and picked up intoxicated women outside bars in downtown Boston, then assaulted them. I'm screaming this from the rooftops because I want everyone to know about this because I think there are definitely probably 100% more victims. Across his 3 pending cases, Alvin Campbell faces 53 criminal charges. Some of the indictments were brought with habitual offender enhancements, reflecting a lengthy criminal history that includes convictions for armed assault with intent to rob and being a felon in possession of a firearm. In a brief statement on Monday, that's when they started picking the jury, this past Monday, Andrea Campbell said she was praying for the survivors and all those affected. It takes extraordinary courage to come forward, and they deserve dignity and respect, she said. This is an incredibly difficult situation for everyone involved, and I carry that weight with me, including in my prayers for my brother. The case is now before the court, and I respect the judicial process as it moves forward. Listen, I'm not blaming this woman, your attorney general, for the crimes of her brother and her father and her grandfather. But I mean, come on, man. Didn't her twin brother also die in jail awaiting trial or something such as like that? Since Alvin Campbell's indictment, numerous trial dates have come and gone as his case languished in the courts. Oh, remember, they also had his DNA in 2016 and 2017. And in 2016, they let it go to a grand jury, but then they took it away from the grand jury before they could indict. And then on the 2 other women in 2017, they said, oh, well, it's going to be too hard for us to prosecute because, you know, you were really drunk and you're not even really sure if you consented or not. I'm sorry, what? What part of intoxication precludes consent? Don't you understand? It's outrageous. Oh, I don't know. Is it his twin or her twin? I thought it was her twin. I don't know. It was a twin. Records show that he, oh wait, here you go. Since ALVIN Campbell's indictment, numerous trial dates have come and gone as his case languished in the courts. Records show that he cycled through several lawyers and filed numerous motions to suppress evidence. He has also pursued appeals to the Supreme Judicial Court, which have been denied. Most recently, Campbell filed a motion to dismiss the case over claimed violations of his right to a speedy trial. The motion does not appear to have been ruled on. I think he was finally taken into custody in 2020. Hold on, we'll see if they tell us. Jury selection for Campbell's trial began this past Monday and wrapped up on Thursday with a total of 17 jurors seated across the 4 days. Opening statements are expected on Monday morning. Charges were first filed against Campbell in January of 2020, even though DNA evidence had linked him to SAs years prior. In 2017, court records show 2 women testified about encounters with Campbell before a grand jury. At first, Campbell faced charges in connection with a single incident. On December 6, 2019, prosecutors say a then 26-year-old woman, identified in court documents only by her initials, went to a work event at the Harp, a bar in downtown Boston near TD Garden, where she drank heavily. Security cams showed she was, quote, in an obviously intoxicated state while leaving the bar, prosecutors wrote. The woman ordered an Uber to take her home. The Uber arrived, waited for her, and then departed without her. As the driver pulled away, Campbell pulled up in a large black SUV. He just so happened to look like the Uber driver who had just left. Surveillance video shows Campbell flashing his lights at the woman, then having a brief interaction with her through the passenger side window and eventually driving away with her in the back seat, prosecutors wrote. In the back seat, the woman quickly passed out. This could be very triggering for some of you, so when I take the article off the screen, it'll be your signal to come back. Take a break if you need to. We'll get to Karen Reed, but this is important because the trial starts on Monday. This has nothing to do with Andrea Campbell. Okay, it's her brother. It's her brother. That's what I'm pointing out. I didn't say it did. I didn't say she's responsible for the crimes of her brother, but I am pointing out the relationship between them because, first of all, it would be irresponsible reporting if I didn't, key to gee. And second of all, perhaps, maybe, just maybe, that's why this guy was never prosecuted, because his sister was, first she was at like a counselor, like a town counselor, a city counselor or whatever. And now she's the attorney general. The things that make you go, there are reasons why women in Massachusetts do not feel protected or safe. And, corrupt politicians and law enforcement just might be one of them. So here's the problem when people report on this story and they don't report that this guy is the brother of Andrea Campbell. To me, that's a bigger problem. Okay. That's a bigger problem. And that's why no mainstream media is covering this. Fight me on it. They're not covering it. If you try and Google this before, when I found out about it, Terry, a viewer brought this to my attention on Tuesday. There are almost 0 articles on this guy at all. The internet has been scrubbed. You can't find it. And there's a reason for that. Okay. So I'm not blaming this woman for her brother's alleged crimes, but there's a reason why the women of Massachusetts do not feel safe. People trying to pin it on the girl at every opportunity, and criminals go free. Enough already. Enough. In the back seat, the woman quickly passed out. When she woke up hours later, she was in a home in Rhode Island with vaginal pain and an injury to her breast. The woman saw a man lying next to her naked and believed he was her Uber driver, prosecutors wrote. As the woman attempted to gather her belongings to leave, Campbell told her she had left her keys in his SUV. He took her to a CVS where he dropped her off, and the woman returned home. Back in Boston, she went to a hospital for an essay exam and reported the incident to police. DNA from the exam was a match for Campbell, prosecutors wrote. This was which one? This was the 2019 one for which he was finally arrested. As the woman attempted to, I just read that paragraph. After Campbell's arrest, investigators obtained a search warrant for his cell phone. On it, they found jarring and incriminating evidence, prosecutors wrote. Campbell had filmed himself groping and graping the woman in the back seat of his SUV. In the videos, the woman is seen both clothed and naked, prosecutors wrote. Campbell addressed her by name and commented about her body, then at one point told her, "Raise your eyebrow if you're all right," prosecutors wrote. The woman didn't respond except to cough and gag. Campbell's phone proved to be pivotal as the case against him expanded. While looking into the December 2019 assault, investigators found a text on Campbell's phone where a woman told him, "I think of you as nothing more than a grapist." Based on that message, investigators sought and obtained a broader warrant. The expanded review of Campbell's phone led to evidence of grapes involving 6 other women, prosecutors wrote. On the phone, prosecutors say they also discovered video depicting Campbell assaulting 2 women who testified before a grand jury in 2017. Both women reported the assaults shortly after they happened in 2017. The women met Campbell at the Harp, the same bar where prosecutors say he picked up a woman in December of 2019, where he was posing as a bouncer. Both recalled getting drunk at the bar and then getting a ride to their apartment from Campbell. Campbell is accused of assaulting one of the women and attempting to assault the other. In a sentencing memo prepared ahead of a December 2024 lobby conference, let me just also point this out to you, okay? This was in 2019. In 2019, Boston PD got a warrant for this guy's iCloud, and that's how they got all of the additional victim information. So if they had the ability to do that all the way back in 2020, explain to me why the investigation into a murder of a Boston police officer named John O'Keefe in 2022 couldn't yield a better investigation when they could get this guy's iCloud data all the way back in 2019. Give me a break. They should have prosecuted in 2016 because that's when the first woman came forward. Hold on. Campbell is accused of assaulting one of the women and attempting to assault the other. So in 2024, they were going to do there was a possible resolution to the case. And so prosecutors back then indicated that they were going to seek several decades in prison for Campbell. The government recommended a sentence of 98 to 129 years in prison, all but guaranteeing the 45-year-old would die in prison if convicted. Thank you, Charlie McKenna, for taking an interest in this. This has been languishing in the court since 2016. Go back to my show from, was it yesterday already? I don't even know what day it was. Where we went into much greater depth about this, but there is one additional piece of information that I wanted to show you before we move on to the Karen Reed opposition and give people a chance to get in because of my late scheduling of this particular show. And 1 second. This is the original Commonwealth statement of the case that was filed in 2021. It's only 3 pages. And if you weren't outraged already by what I just told you, you may be now. Because they've had his DNA since 2016. How many other women do you think are victims? Do you think there are other women who are victims? Do you think there are other victims? I would submit to you that a serial grapist doesn't just decide to start graping at age, 40, and then just stop. It was just yesterday. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Jane. Well, here we go. Here's the original Commonwealth statement of the case. And this was filed by the Commonwealth all the way back in March of 2021. This also will be triggering for anybody who doesn't want to watch it. Just put me on mute and then come on back. Get out my highlighter. This is in the Commonwealth versus ALVIN Campbell. It doesn't say junior, but it should. Commonwealth statement of the case. Now comes the Commonwealth and respectfully submits the following statement of the case. This is the summary, not binding or exhaustive, of the evidence supporting the indictments. The defendant, ALVIN Campbell, now stands accused of graping and otherwise essaying a total of 9 young women between 2017 and 2019. The present indictments allege that Campbell committed 3 counts of grape and 2 counts of recording an unsuspecting nude person against RB on June 16th of 2018, and further allege that he is a habitual criminal. The common denominator in the attacks is evidence that Campbell masqueraded as a rideshare driver, and in one case, a bar employee, and targeted women at venues in the downtown Boston area who were too intoxicated to consent to sex or to resist his assaults. He used his own cell phone to record his crimes against these defenseless victims. Campbell was first charged with the December 7th, 2019 kidnapping and essay of a 26-year-old woman, VR. During that investigation, a search warrant was performed on Campbell's phone, which revealed video and photo evidence, including images of VR's license, as well as graphic videos of Campbell essaying VR while she was unconscious, unresponsive, and naked. Additionally, a search warrant executed on Campbell's black SUV in January of 2020 revealed Uber decals throughout the car, as well as business cards with Campbell's own transportation company information on the front and Uber codes on the back. Campbell was indicted for charges stemming from that incident in March of 2020. But remember, there was a report in 2016 after the 2016 report, which the Suffolk County DA did not allow the grand jury to indict on, even though all the evidence went to the grand jury. They pulled it before they could issue a true bill. Campbell was immediately fired from Uber, and yet he still had all the stickers on his car. Boston PD detectives obtained a second search warrant for more content from Campbell's phone. Oh, wait. Let me move myself out of the way here a little bit. Why am I frozen? Oh, I know why. StreamYard sucks. Hold on a second. Am I freezing when this part is pulled up? No, right? Okay, I'll just move it to my other screen. Look at that. Boston PD detectives obtained a second search warrant for more content from Campbell's phone, which revealed videos and still images depicting the grapes and other essays of an additional 7 women. These women were interviewed and reported that on the nights of their respective grapes, they were leaving various clubs in Boston while intoxicated and entering a vehicle they believed to be an Uber or other rideshare. Some had vague memories of being assaulted. Others had none at all. All of their grapes or assaults were documented on the defendant's phone. He was indicted for the grapes of those seven women in September of 2020. Okay, let me just point this out to you. It's kind of obvious, but here's the thing. If they had indicted this bastard back in 2016, how many other women would not have become victims of his? See, it's kind of like when I handled the cases against the Catholic Church for many, many victims of clergy SA, that instead of moving Father so-and-so from parish to parish and warning people to stay away from Father so-and-so, especially the children, they just shuffled them around, enabling so many other children to become victims of the same exact pedo. It's horrific. The present indictment stemmed from 10 videos spanning from 5:09 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. on June 16th of 2018, and 2 still images in Campbell's cloud-based storage. The images showed him essaying a 9th young woman, RB. At 5:09 a.m., RB was recorded while getting out of the backseat of Campbell's vehicle. She had a short dress on and no underwear and was clearly intoxicated. He recorded her vajayjay as she was trying to get out of the car. In the next video, between 5:19 and 5:28 p.m., Campbell walked RB into a hotel so that she could use the restroom and then back to his vehicle. The next video at 5:42 a.m. showed the victim unconscious and dressed while lying on her back in the backseat of defendant's SUV. The defendant performed brief on her while she was unconscious and then proceeded to grape her digitally and the other way for extended periods of time while she remained unconscious or semi-conscious and unresponsive. The grape videos lasted approximately 46 minutes. Please, for the love of the traveling Mary and all that is holy, tell your daughters, your sons, your children, make sure you always check the license plate of the Uber. Make sure you check the photo of the driver, because there are some drivers out there who are driving with somebody else's car and it's not really them. And make sure you ask them, what's my name, before you ever get in a car with them. And if you have a teenager and they use Uber, make sure that you have a teen account so that you can track them every single time they get into an Uber. It's horrific. Detectives, here, it gets worse when you thought it couldn't get worse. Detectives identified RB from a picture of her passport that Campbell had taken that was saved in his cloud data. She was interviewed and indicated that on Saturday, June 16th, 2018, she went out with friends to a club in Boston. The victim drank to excess and ultimately left the club with the intent of hailing a taxi that would take her back to her apartment. By apparent coincidence, there was a black SUV parked near the club whose driver RB recalled as a tall and slightly overweight black man. RB entered this vehicle and had no memory of what ensued or where she was taken until she awoke in the back seat, lying down without her underwear. RB believed she had been raped by this man, but did not disclose this to anyone until after SAU detectives reached out to her more than 2 years later. Campbell's alleged serial rapes came to an end in January 2020 when he was arrested for the December 7th, 2019 crimes against VR. They're not even telling you about the other 7 victims. In all of the felony indictments against him, the Commonwealth alleges that Campbell is a habitual criminal based on the following convictions and sentences. Armed assault with intent to rob, assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, and assault by means of a dangerous weapon, convicted in the Suffolk Superior Court on April 24th of 2000 and sentenced to 3 to 5 years in prison. Felon in possession of a firearm, convicted in the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts on October 30th, 2006, and sentenced to 57 months in prison. Okay, not only has he been in the state pokey, but he's been in federal as well. Unlawful possession of a firearm, convicted in the Middlesex Superior Court on August 13th, 2014, and sentenced to 7 years in prison. I don't know how much time he actually did, but at this time, when this was filed back in 2021, Rachel Rollins was the district attorney, and this was signed by a couple of ADAs. This was when they were supposed to be a plea deal, but there was no plea deal. Somebody said they think that he's going to plead guilty on Monday. I don't know. I don't know about that. I guess we'll see. He's done some time. And just because he did some time in some other cases involving other crimes, it was never grape. Doesn't mean he absolutely did this. But this is outrageous. You should be outraged. And I know I am. So there's that. Tell your friends. Tell everyone about it. Because guy should have been prosecuted in 2016. How many women would not have to live the life sentence of being one of his victims? Horrific. Mrs. Parks is here. Thank you, Mrs. Parks, for your very generous $100 super chat. Says, thanks for breaking this down for us. There are 3,000 of us in here, but only 1,000 likes. Hit the button, y'all. Pretend we're in Canton. No one will ever investigate or check for DNA. Happy Friday, chat. Thank you so much. You're so generous. You're so sweet. And I love you so much. On top, thank you for your super sticker. I appreciate you so much. Rusty Bed Springs. So I'm behind, but big props to you. Your shout out today was the best thing all week. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much for your 20. You're amazing. We are the lucky ones. Thanks. Love being a cupcake. I love having you here. Thank you so much for being here for 3 months. PJ's been here for 12 months. Thank you so much. Purple hearts for Kelsey. James says just Friday, love and positive energy. Thanks, James, for your 10. I appreciate you. Karen's been here for 6 months. She says, we love you, Kelsey. David, thanks for your 5. Peter is seeing the struggle Cruz was going through. I know. He said his father, he said Papa Tragos would have been in jail with this judge, would have been cuffed and held in contempt. And he did agree that, Ahmaud Cruz being fined $1,000 and sanctioned in his opening statement, like the whole rest of your trial performance is going to be affected by that moment. Was that an overreaction by the judge? Tell me what you think. I don't want to brainwash you or anything. Coco said that my positivity is contagious. How about my outrage? Is that contagious too? Am I brainwashing you, Coco? Thanks for being here for 6 months. It's an inside joke. If you know, you know. Karen, thanks for creating this safe space for us, Melanie. Oh, it's my pleasure. The mods. Thank the mods. Because I don't watch the chat when I'm talking to you and reading. I couldn't possibly do it without them. Jackie's here. It's her first live. Welcome, Jackie RM7. Oh, thank you for your compliments. I really appreciate that. I love your snark. She says so refreshing. I wish I had a friend like you. You're my friend. You're all my friends. You're all my friends. We're friends. We're internet friends. We're internet friends. Even though I say don't find friends on the internet, we can be friends. We can't make everybody happy, but we can make each other happy. That's why I call you my cupcakes. Laura says, I took your advice, Melanie, and I bought the tickets to the show. I saw the AFFIDAVIT brothers and Mike Patton in Austin. Amazing. See, buy the tickets. Just buy the tickets. Did you see what happened the other night? I don't even know if it was last night or the night before. The Dave Matthews Band played in front of the Magic Kingdom Castle at a corporate event, at a private event in front of the castle, Cinderella's castle at the Magic Kingdom for I don't know how many people, but a lot of corporations do this. They rent out the whole park for only their people. And wow, it looked amazing. So jealous. I think it was SAP was the corporation that rented it out. Yep. If you go on Instagram, you can find the videos. There's one, I think it's Live for Live Music that posted it. I can't play it because it'll get stricken. And there's a guy in the crowd, the guy I think who's taking the video, and he's like, is this effing real life? I can't even believe this is happening right now. And it's Dave and the boys. It's Dave and the boys playing right in front of the Magic Kingdom. I mean, I don't know. I think I got to find you a picture of it. Don't worry. We'll get to the Karen Reed stuff. Oh, yeah. There was supposed to be an auction yesterday of her Lexus. I don't know. There's like some there's some conflicting reports about what happened. At first, I heard that only 2 people showed up to the auction. And then I heard that so the auction was called off. But then it's being reported that the owner of the Lexus sold it to a private bidder before the auction started. And so the auction was called off. And apparently there were a lot of people who showed up there in like the rain. I don't know. Here, let me show you this. I can't play the music for you, but you can get a little idea of what it looked like. Here you go. Oops. Stop this and put up this. I mean, is that cool or what? Dave Matthews Band in Magic Kingdom. That is so crazy. I know. I know. Glitch says, how ironic is it? Oh, this is so funny. How ironic is it that Dave was at Disney right after you talked about your dislike of Disney? Hilarious. Hilarious. People apparently bought, I don't know how they knew that he was going to be there, that he was going to be the musical guest. Probably they told the people that were going to this conference. It was an SAP conference. People bought like passes to go to this conference because they knew that Dave was going to be there. Isn't that so crazy? And corporate, a lot of, I've been to like as a +1 to some of these corporate events where people like Train have played, Sheryl Crow, it depends on your budget. SAP's got tons of money and they could certainly afford to pay Dave the probably at least $1 million, at least the $1 million that it cost to have them play there. I mean, I can't even imagine what the price tag on that was, but I think somebody estimated it costs between $3 and $9 million to rent out the park for the night. CU Buffsman, tell us more. So your company produces the SAP events. How much did they pay Dave? How much did they pay Dave to play? And did you go? Ermagerd. Yes, there is some. Hold, please. So that's just one of my side quests today in many. I do have some video for you about the auction, but again, it's a little bit conflicting. The reports are conflicting is all I could say. Where's my history? All right, here's what WBZ has to say about it. Apparently, whoever wanted to bid on the on Karen Reed's Lexus needed to have proof of funds of at least $20,000. And here's what happened, according to WBZ.
Well, Karen Reed's SUV was supposed to hit the auction block today, but at the last minute, it didn't. Reed was acquitted of murder charges last year in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. But she was convicted of drunk driving, and she was behind the wheel of the SUV at the time. WBZ's Mike Sullivan is in Woburn to explain.
Wait, I'm sorry, what? She was behind the wheel of the SUV at the time of what? Wait a second, hold on.
Well, Karen Reed's SUV was supposed to hit the auction block today, but at the last minute, it didn't. Reed was acquitted of murder charges last year in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. But she was convicted of drunk driving, and she was behind the wheel of the SUV at the time. WBZ's Mike Sullivan is in Woburn.
At the time she was drunk driving? Oh, okay.
To explain why the auction was canceled at the last minute.
Karen Reed's now famous SUV drew the eyeballs of the nation for years, and today was up for auction trying to draw bids. The open sale was called off 30 minutes before a bid even came in.
So usually that would...
I mean, it looks like there's a lot of people there. Loophole Lawyer had someone there to bid? Really? Is that true? Vince is kind of a kidder too. So do you think he was serious? Do you think that was like not hyperbole? Do you think he was real? All right, hang on. Loophole Lawyer showed up with a $20,000 check and was turned away. He seemed bummed on his video, but was also laughing. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, I think they meant she was behind the wheel of her car at the time that she was driving it drunk. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me either, but let's keep going.
Open sale was called off 30 minutes before a bid even came in.
So usually that would be followed by some boos and sighs and ahs.
Auctioneer Justin Manning tells.
And booze, he meant, I was confused because I thought he meant B-O-O-Z-E, but he meant booze, B-O-O-S. So listen to that again. This guy says the auctioneer. I don't know. This is just wild to me.
Followed by some boos and sighs and ahs.
Auctioneer Justin Manning telling a crowd of bidders and Reed supporters that the owner, Bill Broussard, was presented an offer prior to the auction. He chose to take the deal after hearing that the bidder turnout was in the single digits. Broussard.
Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just let the people who show up bid? And then if the other bid is better, I mean, isn't that the way an auction works? I'm not an auctioneer, but it's like, how about, that person bids and then other people come in. Maybe somebody bids more. You never know. Maybe somebody bids more. And then you get the other guy on the phone and you say, okay, I got a bid of 70 grand. You want to going once, going twice. That's just so weird. Sold to the guy on the phone. Like, why wouldn't you just do it that way? At least like do a presentation. Do a presentation. It's so weird. And Howie Carr, was he there too, or he was covering it on the radio or something? I don't know.
Is the owner of JB Auto, same group that worked to repair the vehicle. The number of Karen Reed supporters and trial followers far outweighed the total number of bidders.
You gonna bid today?
Nope.
How come?
I know what they did to the car. I don't know how they put it back together.
Manning says Broussard was expected to give the proceeds from the auction back to Karen Reed. We're told the deal went through with a group. We don't know who that is or what their intentions are. The Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Tennessee says they attempted to buy the car previously, but a deal fell through and they moved on.
Wait, who? The crime what now? Hold on. I felt like a crime, like a museum, you know, like the Hard Rock or something, but like maybe like a true crime museum or something. I don't know. It's just so weird. Hold on.
We don't know who that is or what their intentions are. The Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Tennessee says they
Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Tennessee tried to buy it, but it didn't go through. Okay.
attempted to buy the car previously, but a deal fell through and they moved on.
And there has been steady interest from those two groups prior to today. And I think today was a little bit more investor-driven group than those type of groups.
Manning expects the deal to be official in the coming days. In Woburn, I'm Mike Sullivan, WBZ News.
Pretty interesting.
Oh, I like how they showed the inverted video of the car. There's the inverted video of the Lexus itself. Oh, I meant to highlight the other one. Sorry, Priscilla. I don't know. Is that the one where OJ's Bronco is? I don't know. But why wouldn't you just, like, for show, have the auction, have the other guy who's bidding on the phone? Because you can bid virtually. Usually you can be on the phone. And so I don't know. It seems sus to me. Auntie Shari says that is where OJ's Bronco is. Just sounds a little bit sus. I don't know. But everybody's reporting it differently because, of course, they are. So let's see what they said over on.
Wayward Waymos. This video here.
Stop. That was WBZ.
Crowds gathered.
All right, so here's WJAR. Anybody know these ladies with their pink Free Karen Reed shirts on?
Crowds gathered today to see Karen Reed's SUV, the car central to her two murder trials. It was set to be sold to the highest bidder earlier today.
But the auction was suddenly called off. NBC 10's Maddie Heimsch is live in Woburn, Massachusetts, to explain what happened. Maddie?
Dan and Patrice, the car, formerly a piece of high-profile evidence, was set to be bid on this afternoon. But just as the auction was set to begin, organizers hit the brakes.
Based upon that offer and based upon the turnout that is here today, that he would be better suited to pursue that offer versus proceed forward with the auction sale here today.
Karen Reed's Lexus SUV at an estimated value of $60,000 to $70,000, attracting a crowd outside Manzi Appraisals in Woburn.
I think it's more notoriety. Alan Jackson said this is a vehicle more of a notoriety or a symbol of a fight and justice. And I think that is what we see. We have a lot of turnout.
And while many gathered to take photos and sit inside the vehicle,
the only reason I'm here is because of the trial. You know that's the notoriety. You know,
fewer than 10 registered to try.
The Grateful Dead hat on. Susan's telling us and pointing out to those who don't know that WJAR is out of Providence.
And take it home.
Just interested to see the car and curious what it'll go for.
The SUV was central evidence in the trial of Karen Reed, who was acquitted of murder charges in connection with the 2022 death of her boyfriend.
Oh, wait, look
Boston
at that shot.
Police.
If you're not looking at your screen, come back for a second just because Leslie and Yannetti walking down the sidewalk. Hold on.
Curious what it'll go for.
The SUV was central evidence in the trial of Karen Reed, who was acquitted of murder charges.
Oh, look. Look at that. Yeah, Alan Jackson, Karen Reed, Bob Alessi, David Yannetti, and Liza Little on the left there. I will be with David Yannetti on the Turtle Boy fundraiser on Sunday at 3 p.m. Me and King David are doing the segment together. That's going to be fun. Don't miss that. Yeah. Also, it was infested with rodents, the car. Told you my mouse story the other day. All right, here we go. Oops. Why Woburn? I don't know. I guess that's where the auction house was.
In connection with the 2022 death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Prosecutors at the time alleged she ran O'Keefe over with the Lexus, pointing to the now restored right taillight as primary evidence.
Well, it's interesting to see. I want a picture at the taillight.
You see it? See the taillight?
I think that if they sold it with the broken taillight, it would probably increase the value.
Again, the value of the vehicle was estimated between $60,000 and $70,000. The auctioneer couldn't tell us how much it went for in that private sale. Live in Woburn, Maddie Heimsch, NBC 10 News.
I don't know. So it's a little bit quiet. And so I don't know. Yeah, I'm surprised Dillard doesn't want it for evidence in the civil trial, says massive shenanigans, or Karen too, because there's we've seen the pictures. It looks like there's maybe some tool marks around the taillight, where it looks like maybe it was pried out of its housing. I don't know. Right. Turtle Boy's having a 12-hour fundraiser on his channel this Sunday from noon to midnight. And he's got people scheduled, which I think is the best way to get it, the best way to do it. So you can check us out over there on Sunday to raise money for his legal defense fund. A big car dealer I heard bought it, Ernie Bach. I don't know. I don't, I can need receipts for stuff, so I don't really know. I don't know many receipts on that. So I can't really report it without receipts. All right, moving on as we do. Oh, another exciting thing is that oral arguments have been scheduled for the Richard Allen appeal in Indiana. That's exciting. The Court of Appeals in Indiana has scheduled oral arguments on his appeal, the Delphi case, and that is going to be held September 21st, 2026 at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to watch it together because it's going to be broadcast. So that's going to happen in September. And then also there was a Harvey Weinstein got another mistrial today in New York on the grape of Jessica Mann. I mean, I think this is the third time that case has gone to trial, second mistrial. So a lot of people are like, I didn't even know Harvey Weinstein was on trial again. Huge news that they're doing oral arguments on the Richard Allen case, which I covered here on the ground while some of our LawTube friends were in the courtroom in Indiana because the judge would not allow it to be live streamed. I wouldn't even let Ali Mata look at the evidence, and she got mad. Boy, did she. That was wild. That whole thing was wild. All right. Let us go now into 1 hour and 2 minutes in. Let us go now to the Karen Read opposition, parts of it. Richard Allen is the Delphi case. Parts of it. It's 34 pages long. We're going to go over some parts. It may take us more than one part to get through. This is in the Karen Read versus everybody case in federal court. You may remember that the House defendants made a motion to dismiss the case because they're saying that the statute of limitations is up and anti-SLAPP, everything that we did was protected as petitioning activity, and you can't show a conspiracy and various other reasons. We went over the whole entire motion. We're going to go over her opposition to it today. It's 34 pages long, but it's really something like 1,463 pages because there's tons of attachments. So they think they're also entitled to some sort of immunity because everything they said was in court or in furtherance of Karen Read's prosecution. And Karen Read's attorneys are clapping back and they're saying, yeah, no, that's not the way it works. Also, anti-SLAPP was one of their grounds to have it dismissed because of the petitioning activity that they say. So they're entitled to have it dismissed under that, but this is federal court. And so we'll see. All right, let us first look at the most interesting part of this. This is the first time ever that Karen Read has sworn to anything under oath. And there was Karen Read's affidavit attached to her opposition. This is the first time ever. All of her other statements have been given to reporters, in Dateline episodes, in news pieces on television. She's never signed an affidavit. Well, yes, that is true, Scorpion. There's no statute of limitations on murder. But they are claiming that Karen Reed's case against them is time barred. She's not, this is a civil case. So she's not like suing them for murder. She's suing them for violating her civil rights. Don't scream at me with your all caps. It's a statute of limitations on when you can sue for torts in Massachusetts, in all states, actually. This is in the federal court. This is Karen Reed against Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, Tully, Town of Canton, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. But this particular affidavit is in response to the motion to dismiss of the Haas defendants, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. And here's what she is swearing to under oath. I, Karen Reed, on my oath, hereby do declare and attest as follows. 1, I am over 18 years of age. 2, I submit this affidavit on personal knowledge and support of my opposition to the defendant's special motion to dismiss and pursuant to Federal Rule 12b-6. 3, I was acquitted by a jury of all criminal charges relating to the death of John O'Keefe III after a full and public trial that exposed pervasive investigative misconduct and corruption. 4, I did not cause and am not responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death. I did not strike Mr. O'Keefe with my car. She's saying it under oath. Remember, she didn't testify at either one of her trials because she has the right to not testify. Under the Fifth Amendment. But she's telling us under oath, I did not cause and I'm not responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death. I did not strike Mr. O'Keefe with my car. There it is. What had happened to my second page? I don't know. Hold on a minute. What happened? Oh, for the love of the technical difficulties. Hold on a second. Number 75. Okay. How does that even happen? How does the second page just disappear? All right. Well, you know what I'm going to do? Did it get corrupted when I tried to fill? This is so stupid. Hold on a second. I'm going to have to grab my laptop and read it. No, I didn't change the color of the font or anything. I mean, I had to airdrop this from my laptop to my other device. Hold on a second while I pull my laptop over here. Hold, please. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Okay, I don't know what happened, but on my laptop, I still have it. What if I downloaded this from Pacer myself, so it's not even like it was someone else's file. I dropped Mr. O'Keefe off at 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Massachusetts. And contrary to what the Commonwealth claimed in my criminal trial and what the defendants now assert, Mr. O'Keefe and I did not have such an altercation before I dropped him off at the Albert's house. That's what she's saying. As a result of defendant's actions, I was wrongly accused of homicide for 3.5 years and subjected to suspicion, arrest, 2 prosecutions, and public condemnation. My life was not merely turned upside down by the defendant's misconduct. It was forever changed by the defendant's transgressions and wrongdoing. The years of uncertainty and unimaginable emotional distress have left lasting scars that will never heal. Not only have I suffered emotionally, but the impact of these acts has caused me substantial and irreparable harm, financial harm. I lost my job as a professor, my health insurance, my car and driver's license, and my house while incurring millions of dollars in legal and expert fees to defend myself. Signed under the pains and penalties of perjury, May 14th, 2026, Karen Reed, and she signed it. And in fact, I redacted her signature because I didn't want some crazy person copying her signature and then, like trying to like open credit cards underneath her name or anything. And so that is sworn to under oath, an affidavit of Karen Reed. And it's important because you have to have an affidavit from someone with personal knowledge attached to your motion, because that's the way it is. You can't rely on just an attorney's affirmation. It had to be signed by her. Okay, and now I pulled it back up and it came back up. So let me pull it back up again. That was really weird. Does anybody know why that would even happen? All right, let me try that one more time. Because I don't want you to have to do the trust me bro on this, okay? So after she says, I did not strike Mr. O'Keefe with my car, she says, I dropped Mr. O'Keefe off at 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Massachusetts. And contrary to what the Commonwealth claimed in my criminal trial and what the defendants now assert, Mr. O'Keefe and I did not have such an altercation before I dropped him off at the Albert's home. There was no fight in the car. 7, as a result of the defendant's actions, I was wrongly accused of homicide for 3.5 years and subjected to suspicion arrest, 2 prosecutions, and public condemnation. My life was not merely turned upside down by the defendant's misconduct, it was forever changed by the defendant's transgressions and wrongdoing. The years of uncertainty and unimaginable emotional distress have left lasting scars that will never heal. Not only have I suffered emotionally, but the impact of these acts has caused me substantial and irreparable financial harm. I lost my job as a professor, my health insurance, my car and driver's license, and my house while incurring millions of dollars in legal and expert fees to defend myself. Signed under the pains and penalties of perjury, May 14th, 2026. She's telling us everything, and she swore to it. And for some reason, I guess this didn't appear on the federal docket yesterday, and so people were squawking that she didn't sign an affidavit. What she did, it just wasn't, for whatever reason, docketed in the court. The reason this thing is 1,400 pages long is because of all the stuff that's attached to it. And in order to find out what it is that was attached to it, we have to go to the affidavit of Damon Seligson, who will tell us everything that is attached to these motion papers, because we're not going through 1,400 pages. We're just not. But we're going to get a list of everything that was attached. So here's Damon Seligson's declaration. That is one of her attorneys. He's the main attorney, I would say. Well, Aaron Rosenberg seems to be the in-person argument guy, and Damon Seligson seems to be the paper guy. And like, there's, everybody's got a skill. Everybody's got a specialty. Some attorneys are great in court. Some attorneys are great on paper. Some attorneys are great researchers. Some attorneys have their associates draft everything for them because they hate researching. That's me. I hate researching. Hold on. This is he is South African, Damon Seligson. Here he is. And he's been a member of the Massachusetts Bar since 1996. He's in good standing. He works at Sheehan Finney. He's a shareholder. Counsel for Karen Reed. And here's what he attached. Attachment 1 is, could I get a highlighter? Sometimes they let you highlight these things. Sometimes they don't. Yeah, see, sometimes it's weird. It goes up here. I don't know. Attachment 1 are portions of the transcript of the trial testimony of Irene Scordi-Bello, the chief medical examiner for the Commonwealth. Attachment 2, call logs, evidence and communications exchanged between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. Attachment 3, portions of the transcript of the trial testimony of Ian Whiffen. Attachment 4 are portions of the transcript of the grand jury testimony of Brian Higgins, which has been withheld for in-camera review or filing pursuant to order of impoundment. I tried to get it. I tried so hard to get it. I really wanted the grand jury testimony of Brian Higgins, but it is sealed. Can't get it. Attachment 5, portions of the trial transcript testimony of Dr. Marie Russell. Attachment 6, the transcript of an interview given by Nicole Albert. Attachment 7, Canton Police Department Incident Report. Attachment 8, portions of the transcript of the trial testimony of Jennifer McCabe. Attachment 9, portions of the transcript of the trial testimony of Brian Albert. Attachment 10, portions of the trial transcript of Richard Green. Attachment 11, MSRP report regarding Caitlin Albert. Attachment 12 is a report concerning Jennifer McCabe's phone records. Signed under the pains and penalties of perjury, 14th day of May, 2026, by Damon Seligson. So that is why this thing is over 1,400 pages long, because all of those things are attached for the court's convenience. And in the process of reading Karen Reed's, the opposition to the motion, we're going to find out why these things were attached. So we move on to the opposition. Same thing. I couldn't highlight this, so I had to do it with a red underline. Oh, you're camping? Karen Post is camping. Oh, she says, I have you on while we're camping. I go everywhere with you. Oh, I love that for us. I don't like camping. I don't like camping, but I hope that you're having a wonderful time. You're having a wonderful time. I don't like bears. I don't like snakes. I don't like fish. I don't like any of it. I hope that you have a wonderful trip. Country Barbie says, Kelsey Fitzsimmons melted my heart. I'm not crying. You are. Thanks for being here for 7 months. Redondo Beach said a Waymo in LA drove right through an LAPD standoff. That scares the hell out of me, Redondo Beach. I love Redondo Beach. And I love you for being here for 8 months too. Megan says, I've had some scary Uber rides where I had to tell them I would call the police right now. Thanks for your 5. Ms. Jules says, Melanie, there are also bracelets and necklaces to alert friends and family so they can come or call the police. Thank you, Ms. Jules from Florida, for your 10. All right, I will get back to the rest of the super chats in a little bit, but if we don't get started here, we're never going to get started. So let's do this. It might take more than one show. It probably will. I wanted to share with you some of the factual assertions that Karen Reed is now making, because when we went over the motion to dismiss, and I tell you this every time we go over a motion to dismiss, in order to determine or decide a motion to dismiss, especially one like this that is made pre-discovery, before depositions, before anything's really been done in the case, it's based solely on the papers, as we say. And so for purposes of determining or deciding a motion to dismiss at this stage of civil litigation, the judge has to take everything in the plaintiff's complaint as truth for purposes of the motion. That is why I said, well, Karen Reed filed an amended complaint. Remember, we went over the amended complaint. And I said to you, this is why she's amending her complaint, because it needed to be pled with more specificity to overcome a motion to dismiss on anti-SLAPP and for other reasons. And this case was originally filed. I'm getting all of these cases confused right now. This case was originally filed in what state court? The defendants removed this to federal court, as I recall, right? Karen didn't file this in federal court originally. Sounds like wasn't Plymouth. Or did she bring this one? Hold on a second, because now I'm getting hella confused. I thought this was the one that they removed to federal court, right? What county was it originally filed in? Bristol. Thank you. Oh, Queen Corey Hoppins is here. Queen Corey is here. Okay. This lawsuit was filed in Bristol County State Court. The Haas defendants removed it to federal court. And now we're going to see why that might not have been such a great idea. Because Karen's first argument is, hey, you're trying to move to dismiss this case based on anti-SLAPP legislation in the state of Massachusetts, but you can't move for anti-SLAPP in federal court, according to some recent decisions. That's her first argument. So, as I always say, sometimes you better want what you wish for. And whether or not a judge is going to agree with this argument, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But that is bow to the Queen, Corey Hopkins, the queen of the FOIA requests. We love her so much. And I'm going to just give you a broad overview of this by reading the first page. This is Plaintiff Karen Reed's opposition to the House defendant's special motion to dismiss and motion to dismiss. The only people in this motion, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. They are the Haas defendants. As they are called in the amended complaint. As set forth in detail below, the court should deny the special motion to dismiss under the Massachusetts anti-SLAPP statute because, here's the statute if you want to go look it up. It's General Law 231, Section 59H. A special motion to dismiss under the anti-SLAPP statute should not be considered in federal court pursuant to a new case, Burke v. Choi, B-E-R-K v. Choi, C-H-O-Y, which is a U.S. Supreme Court case that was just decided January 20th of 2026. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, and so we're not going to talk about it yet. But Corey says this response to the anti-SLAPP argument is some serious nerd alert legal maneuvering right up my alley. See, it's not mine. It's not mine. I'd rather be in court talking to a jury. So yeah, like I said earlier, every attorney has their wheelhouse, right? B, the House defendant's tortious activity goes far beyond mere petitioning activity and involves a conspiracy to manufacture evidence inculpating Ms. Reed in Mr. O'Keefe's death and destroy evidence exculpating her. You better want what you wish for. C, the amended complaint plausibly alleges and the attached factual materials show that the crux of House defendants' actions were, quote, devoid of reasonable factual support or arguable basis in law and caused Ms. Reed's actual injury. I like to go to the factual material. That's where you will find me. You will get an amazing analysis of the law from brother counsel, who I think is doing this on Sunday, and he reads the cases and he explains them to you. He's very, very, very good at that. Another person who's really amazing on the law is Andrea Burkhart. She reads all the cases. She will explain that to you. I will not do that for you. I won't. I'm sorry. I have limited time. I'm going to explain it to you my way. Kurt, who I saw on civil law, also amazing appellate. He will diagnose he'll read every single case. He will dissect it. He'll explain it to you. It may be over your head, but he'll explain it to you. Also, the court should deny the 12B6 motion because A, absolute immunity does not apply to the House defendants. Non-testimonial actions of manufacturing and destroying evidence or to their initial statements to first responders that sparked the investigation. So what they're saying here is you may have immunity for things you testified to in court, but you don't have immunity for your actions. Not for your actions and for the statements that you gave police before there was really an investigation. Those things are not protected. You're not immune. There's no litigation privilege for that. You don't get absolute immunity for testifying and just being a witness, right? Their whole spiel is that, we were just witnesses and look what's happening to us. Well, your testimony is protected under immunity. Your grand jury testimony is protected under immunity, perhaps. But the actions that Karen Read is going to say were conspiratorial in nature, and the planning behind the scenes and the things that you did not say to law enforcement, you're not protected for. And if it comes out that you were conspiring with people who were state actors like law enforcement, MSP, for example, if you were in cahoots with them, then it can be shown that you too were acting as a state actor. Okay, so it sounds more complicated than it is. Also, she says you should deny the statute of limitations began to run when Ms. Reed was acquitted in 2025, and therefore all the claims are timely. They're trying to say, listen, if you're going to say that what we told police is why you were injured, well, that happened in January of 2022. And so under a 3-year statute, your statute would have been up in January of 2025. So you can't bring these claims now. And I said to you, there are exceptions to that. And this is one of them, that she didn't even know if she had a case for violation of her civil rights until she was acquitted. Because if she was convicted, she would not have a cause of action in civil court. Do you see the difference? You can't, if you're convicted, you can't say, well, you violated my civil rights by prosecuting me because you were convicted. And that is why this is a really good argument about why the statute of limitations didn't begin to run until she was acquitted. C, relating to the malicious prosecution claim, count 5, the amended complaint plausibly alleges that the House defendants initiated the prosecution by falsely implicating Ms. Reed in Mr. O'Keefe's murder before the investigation even began. And there are ample plausible allegations of lack of probable cause because the House defendants knew that Ms. Reed did not kill Mr. O'Keefe. Okay, so think of it this way. When I start reading Karen Reed's theory to you, if you didn't know anything about this case, or even if you do, as a reasonable person, would you believe that it is possible that what Karen Reed is saying happened? And that's what the court has to decide. Did she plead it in such a way in her amended complaint that if everything Karen Reed said in her amended complaint is true, the court must deny the motion to dismiss? That's what she's saying here. D, relating to the 42 USC 1983 conspiracy claim, count 3, the amended complaint plausibly alleges a conspiratorial agreement between and among the House defendants and MSP officers Tully Buchanan and Proctor, which satisfies the state action requirement of Section 1983. Okay? They're saying you can't sue us under 1983 because we're not state actors. She's saying, oh, well, yes, you are, because if I can show that you plausibly conspired with people who are state actors, then yes, I can sue you under that theory. It's a choice of law. YSL Kell says Burke v. Choi decision reinforces that federal procedural rules override state procedural requirements in federal court. Yes. Choice of laws. Okay, here we go. Relating to the civil conspiracy claim, count 7, the amended complaint contains non-speculative allegations of a common plan by the House defendants to frame Ms. Reed, coupled with multiple affirmative steps by them to carry out that plan. F, relating to the Massachusetts Civil Rights Act claim, count 4, the House defendants' action in causing Ms. Reed's prosecution is considered intrinsically coercive under Massachusetts law. And G, finally, relating to the intentional infliction of emotional distress claim, count 6, the amended complaint goes far beyond simply alleging wrongful arrest, but like Limine versus the United States, which is a First Circuit case from 2009, involves allegations of knowingly manufacturing evidence to inculpate an innocent person. So much tongue-twisty language in here. That is why Karen Reed submitted an affidavit setting forth all the ways that she's been injured by their actions. Okay? That's why she swore to that under oath. Oh, yeah, I have actual damages. You've actually damaged me. My finances, I lost my job, I lost this, I lost that. I've been emotionally scarred. I thought there was, hold on one second. I have to go back to that affidavit for a second because I thought she said that her physical conditions were exacerbated too. I don't know. Maybe it's in these papers. I don't see it right now while I'm looking. But anyway, here we go. Moving on. Roman 1, the court should deny the special motion to dismiss under the Massachusetts anti-SLAPP statute. This is this could be a whole other show, and I hope someone gives you a whole other show on this. But basically what they're saying is the Massachusetts anti-SLAPP statute is state law. It is state law. You can't bring an anti-SLAPP motion in federal court based on this new bok choy. I think somebody was saying I'm in a mood for bok choy. The recent January of 2026 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, federal law trumps state law. This is a very simple explanation. I'm sure there's a lot more nuance to it than that. But here's what anti-SLAPP is. Kokomo, Indiana says, I was slapped once. Anti-SLAPP motion requires the court to grant a special motion to dismiss based on petitioning activity unless the party against whom such special motion is made shows that 1, the moving party's exercise of its right to petition was devoid of any reasonable factual support or any arguable basis in law. And she's going to say the Haas defendants should not get the benefit of having their case dismissed for petitioning activity when there was no reasonable basis in fact for them to think that I hit John O'Keefe with my car. So even if you do decide that anti-SLAPP is okay to bring in federal court, which I don't think it is, she's saying you can't dismiss it on those grounds because they had no reasonable basis to think that I hit John O'Keefe with my car, and she's going to tell us why. Number 2, and there's an and here, not an or, the moving party, meaning the House defendants, caused actual injury to the responding party. And she's saying, oh, hell yeah, you did. Not only did you have no reasonable basis to conclude that John O'Keefe was hit by a car or any car or my car, but what you did outside of your testimony in court with each other and with law enforcement did cause me actual injury. I had to sell my house. I had to liquidate my 401ks. I had to defend myself. I have $1 million in legal fees. And so that's another reason why they shouldn't be granted anti-SLAPP protection. And here she says, here the court should deny House defendants special motion to dismiss for 3 reasons. Special motion to dismiss is no longer viable in federal court after the Burke v. Choi decision, which just happened a couple months ago. The claims in the amended complaint are not based solely on petitioning activity. She's going to tell us why. And 3, pursuant to the well-pleaded allegations in the amended complaint and the accompanying evidentiary evidence, the House defendants' actions conspiring to manufacture and destroy evidence were devoid of any reasonable factual support or arguable basis in law. You picking up what I'm laying down? Here's the reasons. I'm going to skip over Burke v. Choi. We can come back to that another day. And why Karen Reed's attorneys think anti-SLAPP should not apply in federal court based on that decision. Choice of laws is a whole episode in law school, as is international law and oof, future interests. Ooh, all things that make me shudder even thinking about in law school. Federal rules trump state rules. That is the basis for this argument. It's a good one. Can we all get our time back? I wish. And they go on for several pages to explain why. But today, I want to focus on why the amended complaint alleges far more than petitioning activities alone. But in order to do that, we need to talk about, they talk a little bit about why anti-SLAPP legislation in Massachusetts was enacted, and how they became so common, and that large developers were filing SLAPP suits to silence local residents. Everything was getting time consuming and crazy making, and that it would infringe on the petitioning rights of special motion opponents and everything. And so according to a case from where is this one? They had to make it narrower and narrower in Bristol Asphalt. That's the case they rely on. And they also say here, okay, here we go. Among other changes to the law, this case, Bristol Asphalt returned to a narrow and strict construction of the anti-SLAPP statute, such that special motions to dismiss are only cognizable when challenging claims based solely on petitioning activities. She's going to tell us why her lawsuit is not based solely on petitioning activities, because that case said these powerful procedural protections of the anti-SLAPP motion were intended to be employed in a limited context to ensure the expeditious elimination of meritless lawsuits based on petitioning activities alone. Thus, the House defendants are required at this stage to show that the challenged count has no substantial basis in conduct other than or in addition to the special motion proponents' alleged petitioning activity. The House defendants have not made this required showing because each of the claims they face is based on more than petitioning activity. Specifically, wait 1 second. All right, I think that's on a different page. Here's why. In addition to the many lies the House defendants told police, the amended complaint alleges that the House defendants agreed on a simple plan to exonerate themselves and implicate Ms. Reed. They would tell anyone who inquired, Mr. O'Keefe never entered the house, and hide evidence that he was there, including his body. And this is all in the amended complaint. So it's not just what they said in court. I have another question too, and it's just something I thought of today. Why would, in those group text messages between the Haas defendants, why would they be telling each other or somebody to tell Chris Albert to tell the reporters at D&E Pizza, tell them the guy never went in the house? Why would Chris Albert be telling them that if Chris Albert was never at 34 Fairview that night? That makes me want to scratch my head and go, why would they tell Chris Albert to tell the reporters the guy never went in the house when Chris Albert wasn't at 34 Fairview that night, according to them? I don't know. It's just something that I thought about today. Next, they repositioned a Ford Edge vehicle at a spot adjacent to the front lawn, which obscured the view of that area of the front lawn from potential passersby. They carried or dragged Mr. O'Keefe's body to that same area in the yard, close to where one or more of them later claimed that Ms. Reed dropped off Mr. O'Keefe earlier that night. The plan was devised to make it appear that Mr. O'Keefe had been struck by Ms. Reed's vehicle and then died as a result of exposure to the cold. These are all things in her amended complaint. We read it together. It took a long time. These are not statements by these witnesses or alleged witnesses. These are actions. She's saying your actions are not protected. Even if the court is going to say, all right, we have to determine whether or not this is petitioning activity. These are your actions, not your words. She goes on to say, Mr. O'Keefe was either dead when the House defendants left him on the Alberts lawn or he died shortly thereafter. Ms. McCabe directed them to go back to Mr. O'Keefe's home where Ms. Reed had just come from. The illogical McCabe-directed route to 34 Fairview was intentional. It allowed the House defendants more time to finish creating the scene and hiding evidence before Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered on the Alberts lawn and first responders arrived. Jennifer McCabe managed and communicated details about the House defendants' messaging and the investigation itself, including including visiting Proctor's and the other investigators' private residences, mapping out timelines to coordinate statements with other witnesses, leading group text message chains that were later partially deleted, and planning private meetings at all hours of the day and night. Jennifer McCabe texted with her, and these are all quotes taken directly from the amended complaint. Each bullet point. Jennifer McCabe texted with her sister, Nicole Albert, that Kerry Roberts, who was present when Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, quote, talked to cops and kept it simple, end quote. While MSP interviewed Roberts, McCabe simultaneously texted her husband, Matthew McCabe, Nicole Albert, and Brian Albert, saying, she's telling them everything, all the stuff. Nicole Albert responded, good, and call us after. Later, in other group texts with Jennifer McCabe and Brian and Nicole Albert, Matthew McCabe suggested having Chris Albert publicize their crafted story to a reporter. It doesn't say that here, but they did. It was tell them the guy never came in the house. Before both interviews, the McCabes and the Alberts continued to coordinate their stories as evidenced in group texts. Higgins and Alberts destroyed their phones despite a state court preservation order, by falsely representing that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the Albert house and by relocating his body to the location on the Alberts property where they would claim Ms. Reed dropped off Mr. O'Keefe. The Alberts, the McCabes, and Higgins caused Ms. Reed's wrongful indictment, arrest, and prosecution. Brian Albert and Brian Higgins also caused Ms. Reed's wrongful indictment, arrest, and prosecution by destroying or discarding their phones, eliminating exculpatory evidence. Shortly thereafter, as part of the plan, Jennifer McCabe deleted a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on January 29th for how long it takes a person to die in the cold. Ms. McCabe also deleted many calls and screenshots on her phone the night of Mr. O'Keefe's death. Thus, the House defendants are simply wrong when they argue that the only alleged conduct by each Commonwealth witness relevant to Ms. Reed's alleged injury is the fact that each gave information to the police and testified at Ms. Reed's criminal trials. And she just pointed out in many, many bullet points, all of the actions that they did that had nothing to do with talking to the police or testifying in front of any grand jury or any trial. In fact, the amended complaint alleges numerous actions by the House defendants that have nothing to do with statements to the police, such as moving Mr. O'Keefe's body, moving a Ford Edge to obscure the area where they dragged his body. She's telling us everything now. Directing Ms. Reed to travel back to Mr. O'Keefe's house to give the House defendants more time to destroy evidence, destroying phones, texts, and communications among themselves to coordinate their actions, and deleting Google search evidence. These actions are not petitioning activity. If your mind has started to wander, come back because I'm going to tell you what petitioning activity is. Petitioning activity is protected. Okay? I agree, Corey. Thank you, Corey. Corey loves the law. Corey loves the legal arguments. She says, I don't think the bok choy argument will succeed, but I love the creativity. I do too. She says, the argument Melanie is covering now will likely succeed in defeating the motion to dismiss, right? Is it petitioning activity or not? And I think this is the argument. So you're saying there's a chance? So you're saying there's a chance? Remember, it is very difficult to get a case dismissed based on just the pleadings. Karen Reed tried it. She made a motion to dismiss in lieu of an answer, I believe, in the case of O'Keefe's versus Karen Reed, the waterfall, and C.F. McCarthy's. Some of the causes of action, very few of them, maybe two, were dismissed on the pleadings, but the rest of them survive. And so it's very difficult to get a case dismissed on the pleadings alone. And I think this is the best argument. Here is what petitioning activity is defined as. Any written or oral statement made before or submitted to a legislative, executive, or judicial body or any other governmental proceeding. Any written or oral statement made in conjunction with an issue under consideration or review by a legislative, executive, or judicial body, or any other governmental proceeding, semicolon, any statement reasonably likely to encourage consideration or review of an issue by a legislative, executive, or judicial body, or any other governmental proceeding, any statement reasonably likely to enlist public participation in an effort to effect such consideration, or any other statement falling within constitutional protection of the right to petition government. Okay? So if your eyes glazed over during the reading of what petitioning activity is, you're not alone. The emphasis has been added for you by the drafter of this opposition. And note what is underlined. Any written or oral statement, any written or oral statement, any statement, any statement, any other statement. She's going to focus on their actions, not their statements, and say, this is not petitioning activity. And here's why. And it's a good argument. Robin says, this doesn't feel anti-slappable at all. Three Up Moon says, Matt McCabe told Chris Albert to tell the press, tell them the guy never went in the house or never came in the house. And Chris Albert had been there earlier in the night. Well, if you know that Chris Albert's original statement to law enforcement did say he and Julie followed back to 34 Fairview after the waterfall. He said that in his statement. Listen, I don't know. Maybe he's going to say Proctor or whoever took the statement wrote it down wrong. But we've looked at it 100 times. And that's what he told them. And then all of a sudden he didn't. He went home and he went to bed and he walked home and Colin came in, kissed everybody goodnight, and 12:10, 12:10, 12:10, 12:10. Me too. Music to My Soul says, when the Modest covered the defamation lawsuit, Allie kept shouting, petitioning activity. So all I hear is her voice in my head now when I read those words. Petitioning activity, petitioning activity. Me too. Me too. Allie's voice lives rent-free in my head. And that's the difference. Karen Reed and Aidan Carney are being sued for defamation for things that they said, right? They're saying, you said this about me. It was defamatory. You said that about me. It was defamatory. You said this. It's a different type of case, but it also involves whether certain statements or acts are petitioning activity or not. Quote, in other words, petitioning activity includes all statements made to influence, inform, or at the very least, reach governmental bodies, either directly or indirectly. As asserted in the amended complaint, most of the House defendants' activities are not statements. Moving Mr. O'Keefe's body, obscuring movement of the body by positioning the Ford Edge in front of the Alberts house, delaying discovery of the body by redirecting Ms. Reed on the morning the body was discovered, and destroying phones and Google search evidence do not involve any statement or petition to the government. They involve actions which are not statements. And here's a case, because there's always a case. I'll tell you this, too. There's always a case. I might have had other people, associates, writing my briefs, but there's always a case. Find a case. There's always a case. Don't use AI to try and find cases because they make cases up. We didn't have that luxury back in the day. We used to actually have to go to the actual library before the internet was invented, and and look at the actual books for that. Why are you yelling at me? Anything in all caps is going to be deleted. Don't yell at me. Don't come in here with all caps and yell at me. Don't do that. But since you're yelling at me, I'll take your question. What about the text message where Jen McCabe told them she will take a deal because otherwise it would take too long? What I don't understand is why nobody mentions this text message that Jen McCabe... Girl, have you been ever on this channel? We talk about that all the time. And I don't think it was Jen McCabe. I think it was Matt McCabe who said, if she takes a plea deal, it'll be over. If not, it's going to be a whole other episode. I think they're going to talk about it in these papers. We talk about it all the time. Why do you say who's nobody? What do you mean nobody? Always here we talk about it. Always. Patty, please don't type in all caps. It was Matt. Remember shepherdizing? Shepherdizing was a thing. All right. And here's a case from 2015 in Washington State holding that anti-SLAPP statute did not apply to non-communicative actions taken by defendant. Moreover, so much of the conduct was not intended to reach the prosecutors. You see? It's not petitioning activity if you don't intend the prosecutors to find it. If you're not giving it directly to the prosecutors, if you're doing it behind everybody's back, it's not petitioning activity. Now, can I read tea leaves? Is my crystal ball broken? Yeah, my crystal ball's always broken. Do you think perhaps these are the same exact arguments that are going to be used in defense of the defamation lawsuit brought by these same people against Karen Reed and Aidan Carney? Yeah, of course they are. But in the opposite, they're going to say everything that you're accusing us of was statements, things that we said, petitioning activity. What are the acts that you're going to say that we did? Well, they're going to try and show that Karen and Aidan conspired together to release these defamatory statements. But based on everything that you're reading in this other lawsuit, would a reasonable person come to the conclusion that there was a lot of shady stuff going on, and then maybe these same people were involved in the death of John O'Keefe? Because why else would they do all of these things behind the scenes and try and hide them? It's like a reasonable person standard, right? To the contrary, the House defendants were attempting to hide from them information like Mr. Alberts and Mr. Higgins' phone information and Ms. McCabe's incriminating Google search. See Blakesley v. Marcus, noting requirement that the communication was made to influence, inform, or at the very least, reach governmental bodies either directly or indirectly. She's pointing out all of the things that they did that were not intended to reach law enforcement at all. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, I love when Corey says I'm right because she's wicked smart. Corey says, Melanie hit the nail on the head. One or both defendants will make anti-SLAPP arguments in the defamation suit. Right. Because that is the type of speech, petitioning activity, that anti-SLAPP legislation was designed to protect. At best, for the House defendants, Ms. Reed's claims are mixed claims, that is, those based on a proponent's petitioning, along with substantial conduct other than or in addition to the petitioning activities. The parsing of claims involving a mixture of petitioning and other matters is best addressed in the course of ordinary litigation, where both sides' claims and defenses can be fully analyzed based on a more complete record, not special motions to dismiss. Therefore, the motion should be denied. Okay, let's go back to footnote 1, because all the juice is in the footnotes, right? All the juice. Footnote 1 says, comes after moving Mr. O'Keefe's body. Footnote number 1. While the House defendants maintain that the amended complaint does not allege certain of the defendants were involved in moving Mr. O'Keefe's body, in fact, the amended complaint does allege that all House defendants were involved. In addition, the amended, and then they tell you where to find it, what paragraphs to find it in. In addition, the amended complaint alleges a civil conspiracy in which all participants may be held liable for actions done by others pursuant to a common design or with the defendant's substantial assistance or encouragement. Thus, because all House defendants entered into a common design and plan to inculpate Ms. Reed by manufacturing some evidence and destroying other evidence, they're all liable for the actions done by the other pursuant to a common plan, including moving the body and destroying evidence. Citing a case called that Blakesley v. Marcus case, affirming district court's decision that coordination by defendants required denial of both defendants' special motions to dismiss, even if one defendant was not involved in non-petitioning activity. One goes down, we all go down together, right? Like the Billy Joel song, we all go down together. Common plan or scheme? Yeah, sounds like RICO, says Jamie. Or Jaime Sepulveda. Sepulveda, like Sepulveda Boulevard. We all go down together. Letter C says, even if the court finds the amended complaint is based solely on the House defendants' petitioning activity, the House defendants' actions were devoid of factual support, meaning they had no factual basis to say that Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe with her car, and they caused Ms. Reed injury. We read about her injuries in her own affidavit. And so even if the court determines that, number one, her claims are against their petitioning activity alone, which I don't think they can possibly find based on the way the amended complaint was drafted, and it's on the papers only. The claims still survive the second stage of the special motion to dismiss analysis, which requires the non-movement to show that the special motion proponent's exercise of its right to petition was devoid of any reasonable factual support or any arguable basis in law and caused injury. I think it's very repetitive, but I think you're getting the gist. Specifically, they established that the House defendant's statements that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the Alberts house was devoid of any reasonable factual support and that Ms. Reed suffered actual injury. And here's why. Specifically, plaintiff establishes on this evidentiary record, more likely than not, that's the standard in civil court, more likely than not, it's just, wait, hold on one second. I'm gonna explain this to you with a visual. I have a prop, hold please. I have a prop because of course I do. Take this down for a second. Oops. Here's Lady Justice with her scales, see? Her scales are equal, right? Now, more likely than not is just if one of these scales just tips ever so slightly to the other side, just a little teeny weeny bit, that's more likely than not. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil court, it is beyond, it is more likely than not. Do you see the difference? Love my Lady Justice. My dad got that for me when I graduated law school. Isn't that awesome? All right. Moving on. I got all kinds of props now. I got the little tiny violin here for when we have zero sympathy for somebody. He's a little tiny violin. We got tiny Jesus. Yes, also called preponderance of the evidence. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Corey Hopkins. Specifically, plaintiff establishes on this evidentiary record, more likely than not, that the House defendants lied about Mr. O'Keefe never entering the home. Got the BS button too. And the Mr. T keychain. I have that somewhere. It's in there somewhere. I forgot about the Mr. T keychain. That's for reminding me. I got to find it. I got to dig it out. I got a whole prop bucket over here next to me. You can't even see it. It's hidden. Here's why. Ms. Reed did not strike Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. She said so in her affidavit and swore to it. The Massachusetts chief medical examiner testified that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were not consistent with a vehicle strike, but rather a physical altercation. See testimony of Dr. Irene Scordi-Bello, which is Exhibit 1, Attachment 1. They call it Attachment 1. Mr. O'Keefe did not show signs of a physical altercation before Ms. Reed dropped him off, and he and Ms. Reed did not have such an altercation before she dropped him off at the Albert's house. Why? Because she just swore to it. Yep, I got a magic 8-ball too. You're right, I do. I got the empowerment cards. I got the motivational calendar. Mr. O'Keefe suffered a contrecoup wound on the back of his head, which is consistent with falling on the ridge surfaces present in the Albert's home garage. See testimony of Dr. Irene Scordi-Bello. Mr. O'Keefe also suffered dog bite wounds, and the Albert's German Shepherd had a history of aggression. See testimony of Dr. Irene Scordi-Bello. In addition, evidence was presented at Ms. Reed's trial that Mr. O'Keefe's phone was at some point inside the Albert's home. Are you ready for it? See testimony of Ian Whiffen, Attachment 3. I don't remember exactly what it was that Ian Whiffen said, but at some point he did say that he traveled something like, you guys probably know word for word what Whiffen said, that made it seem like his phone was at some point could have been inside the Albert's home. Finally, the evidence at Ms. Reed's trial also revealed that Ms. McCabe had used her phone to search 2:27 a.m. at 2:27 a.m. on January 28th, how long it takes for a person to die in the cold. See Richard Green's affidavit. Attachment 10. This is, Corey, you can tell me if you agree, Professor Corey. The drafting of this opposition to this motion to dismiss is some really fine legal writing. Because even someone who's not a lawyer can follow this in a logical fashion, right? It's a really strong opposition. That's the same thing I said about the amended complaint. It is meticulously drafted specifically to overcome this type of motion to dismiss, because in deciding it, the judge has to assume that everything in that amended complaint is true. Corey agrees. This is logical. It is well written. It is sequential. It's easy to follow, and everything has a receipt attached to it. In addition, and without any discovery yet in this action, the court should take into consideration that the House defendants have already been caught making misrepresentations and attempting to cover up their conspiracy. Oh, now she's really telling us everything. You want to hear what they are? Here we go. Defendant by defendant. Oh, I think I need to get some chapstick. Hold on, please. Sorry, misophonia friends. I swallowed in the mic. Does everybody have like chapsticks everywhere? Am I the only one? I have a live stream chapstick. I have a nightstand chapstick. And these aren't chapsticks. These Blistex, and I like Nivea as well. And then I like the Sunbum. I think it's Sunbum or banana boat ones with the SPF. I got a chapstick or a lip balm, let's say, in every single purse, in my car, in everyone's car, downstairs, upstairs, outside, everywhere. And not that any, buddy's lips are more sensitive, but if you have blue eyes, your lips are more sensitive and they dry out and they get sunburned, and it's like, I have them everywhere. Okay, next. Here is what they've done. They've been caught doing in attempting to cover up their conspiracy, according to Karen Reed's position, Brian Higgins. Mr. Higgins originally told police that he went to the Canton Police Department on the morning of January 29th to do administrative work in the middle of a snowstorm. And they attached his testimony as attachment 13. Mr. Higgins then told the grand jury and said that he went to the Canton Police Department to move cars around. See attachment 6, which is portions of the grand jury testimony. Yet later at trial, video evidence showed Higgins moving a large parcel from one vehicle to another, disappearing into his office, and then spending a period of time in another unseen area of Canton PD, and then finally exiting Canton PD. Mr. Higgins testified that he didn't speak to anyone after leaving the Alberts house until he was notified of Mr. O'Keefe's death the morning of January 29th. However, evidence at trial showed that he and Brian Albert communicated by phone at 2:22 a.m. that morning before Mr. O'Keefe's body was found. See Call Higgins Albert logs, attachment 2. Higgins and Albert's phone logs, or maybe their calls to each other, are attached as attachment 2. Next, Nicole and Brian Albert. On January 29th, they told Sergeant Lank that their daughter, Caitlin Albert, was only briefly at the Alberts house and left around 12:15 a.m. See the Canton Police Department, page 8, attachment 6. However, Caitlin was later interviewed by MSP and said she was the last to leave 34 Fairview. See MSP interview of Caitlin Albert, attachment 11. Trial testimony by all the House defendants confirmed that Caitlin was the last to leave the Alberts house at around 2 a.m. See transcript of trial testimony of Jennifer McCabe, attachment 8. Everything's got a receipt. Nicole Albert told police she was asleep until Ms. McCabe came into her bedroom just before 7 a.m. on January 29th. See her transcript of trial testimony as attachment 14. However, call logs show a 38-second answered call from Jen to Nicole at 5:07:21 a.m. See Jennifer McCabe's phone records at page 11, attachment 12 to Seligson's declaration. 38 seconds. We've done it before. I have spoken to you for 38 seconds, and you can say a hell of a lot of stuff in 38 seconds. You can make a whole timeline probably in 38 seconds. You can 5:07:21 a.m. That is not even, I don't even think Karen Reed had left One Meadows yet at that point. Because, I mean, isn't it logical that if Karen Reed calls you screaming and crying that John didn't come home, that the first person you would call is Nicole to see if John was there because you saw his car outside of 34 Fairview? Wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't that just be commonsensical? What would a reasonable person say? I know you're all brainwashed, so you're not reasonable people at all. In fact, anybody who thinks John O'Keefe got hit by a car thinks you're all a bunch of idiots. Nicole Albert testified before the grand jury that she went to bed as soon as everyone left her house. See attachment 4 regarding her grand jury testimony. Yet Brian Albert testified before the federal grand jury that he and Nicole were awake and having intimate relations at 2:22 a.m. See attachment 4, paragraph 12 regarding grand jury testimony. Brian Albert testified that he didn't make any calls during the night of January 29th, but call logs showed activity between him and Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. See Brian Albert trial testimony, attachment 9. They said they were butt dials. I think Brian Albert even said he slept with his phone in his bed. Jennifer McCabe. Ms. McCabe falsely identified herself as Nicole to interviewing FBI agents and falsely told them that she had not made any phone calls in the brief period after the agents first showed up and then returned for questioning. See Jennifer McCabe's trial transcript, attachment 8. Ms. McCabe admitted to calling her husband, Brian Albert, Peg O'Keefe, and Adam Lally. See attachment 8. Ms. McCabe omitted during her trial testimony that she went to Sergeant Lank's house on January 30th until the defense presented her phone's location data. See attachment 8. She also testified that she drove straight to Sergeant Lank's house from the O'Keefe's house, but her path of travel showed she went directly to Sergeant Lank from her own house after stopping at the Albert's house. Again, altogether, see attachment 8. She also denied ever stopping at the Albert's house, but the phone data at trial revealed a 5-minute stop on the way to Sergeant Lank's residence. See attachment 8. Ms. McCabe falsely told first responders that Ms. Reed said, "Could I have hit him?" She later testified at trial. Ms. Reed said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." See attachment 10. In support of their argument that they had reasonable factual support or any arguable basis in law to tell first responders, investigators, and juries that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the Alberts' home, the House defendants offered 2 sources of evidence: the Commonwealth statement of case filed after Ms. Reed's indictment and their declarations. Each fail. Each fail. Thanks, Laura. Everybody hit the like button while we're here, or I'm going to have to turn off the fan. She's telling us everything. The statement of the case does not offer competent evidence, since it is not a sworn statement based on personal knowledge, but simply contains allegations the Commonwealth intended to prove at trial. Thus, the court should not consider the statement of the case for the purposes proffered by the House defendants. The truth of the unsworn allegations in the statement, with respect, it's hearsay, basically. With respect to the House defendants' declarations, the court should not credit them for 2 reasons. First, their coordinated statements that Mr. O'Keefe did not enter the Alberts' home is contradicted by the evidence submitted at Ms. Reed's 2 criminal trials. Second, because the House defendants have a documented history of making false statements, they are not credible witnesses. I mean, boom. Ow. I mean, not ow. Just what just had happened was that, wait, let me do that again. That because the House defendants have a documented history of making false statements, they are not credible witnesses. Ding, 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 ding. Relating to her injuries, Ms. Reed easily establishes her actual injuries. I would say damages, but okay. Including loss of employment and income, millions of dollars in legal fees to defend herself, emotional harm, and exacerbation of her MS and Crohn's disease symptoms. That's where I saw it. She's got actual damages. Footnote 2, which was up here talking about statement of the case, says, the House defendants argue that the statement of the case can be considered as a matter of public record. The public record exception to the rule that 12b6 motions are to be decided based on the pleadings and incorporated documents generally allows a court to conclude only that the record exists. The exception does not allow the court to treat all information as in the record as true. Right, because we've seen sometimes the statement of the case does not match the evidence that comes out at trial. Oh, you mean like in this case? Yeah, among others. Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Just one of the examples that I can think of. Nor do the House defendants' special motion even argue Ms. Reed did not suffer actual injury or contest that their actions and statements led to the wrongful prosecution of Ms. Reed. Therefore, Ms. Reed satisfies this element too. Okay. Roman 3. The court should deny the 12b6 motion. Unlike the House defendant's special motion to dismiss pursuant to the anti-SLAPP statute, their motion pursuant to Rule 12b6 is subject to the well-known standard, which assumes the truth of the plaintiff's allegations and takes all reasonable inferences in the plaintiff's favor. So there's two things here. There's just a regular old motion to dismiss saying Karen Reed's complaint does not even state a cause of action under which she can sue us, fails to state a claim of a cause of action against us, and so you should dismiss it. And also the anti-SLAPP motion to dismiss. She's saying, you should deny that one and you should deny this one too. And here's why. Absolute immunity does not shield the House defendants' actions or initial statements. First, the House defendants contend that all the claims against them are barred because they are absolutely immune from liability arising from their testimony in the judicial proceedings involving Ms. Reed, as well as statements made to the police prior to those proceedings. But that misses the point entirely. Ms. Reed's claims against the House defendants involve far more than their false statements and testimony, and these other actions are not immune. And she did delineate a number of them before: moving the body, the forward edge, coordinating their statements, making their timeline, all the actions that are apart and separate from their statements. Pursuant to the absolute immunity doctrine, defendants are immune from Section 1983 claims, that is, violation of her civil rights, based on the witness's testimony, that's in quotes, or an alleged conspiracy to provide false testimony. And evidence of the witness's testimony may not be used to support a Section 1983 claim concerning the initiation or maintenance of a prosecution. However, absolute immunity does not extend to all activity that a witness conducts outside of the courtroom. Specifically, the Supreme Court in Rayburg made clear that absolute immunity does not apply to non-testimonial actions like falsification of an affidavit or fabrication of evidence of a crime. Thus, while the House defendants may not be liable for their false statements to the grand jury and false testimony at trial, they do not have immunity for their actions falsifying evidence by moving Mr. O'Keefe's body and manufacturing and destroying evidence. These actions lie at the heart of every claim against the House defendants. Moreover, absolute immunity does not apply to the false story they told police prior to or at the very start of the investigation into Mr. O'Keefe's death, including the claim that Mr. O'Keefe had never entered the house and that Ms. Reed had made inculpatory statements on the morning of January 29th. The SJC has made clear that not all reports of a crime are absolutely privileged. The critical question is whether, at the time of the defendant's statements, a criminal or judicial proceeding was then being contemplated or proposed. And that is a 1991 case. That's the question. Did they make these statements to law enforcement before they even had any idea who did it or what happened. The critical question is, I just read that, in borderline cases between unsubstantiated reports of criminal activity and statements made in the course of proposed judicial proceedings, a careful fact-specific analysis is required. Right. Every case is different. The House defendants significantly overstate the law when they claim the absolute privilege extends to these additional statements because they are pertinent to judicial proceedings as a matter of law. Here, no criminal or judicial proceedings were contemplated or proposed at the time the House defendants made their initial statements. Ms. McCabe initiated the call to 911 reporting a man passed out in the snow. It's right there. There's a man passed out in the snow. The Alberts and McCabe's then falsely told one of the first responders on the scene that morning, Sergeant Lank of the Canton PD, that Mr. O'Keefe had never entered the Alberts' house. Ms. McCabe then reached out to Sergeant Lank later to falsely say that Ms. Reed had said that morning, "I hope I didn't hit him." Unlike the timing in Carella's, that's the case they cited, where the relevant statements were made when a criminal investigation was well underway. That's the difference. Here, the statements were made prior to investigation by the state police and to one of the first responders on the scene. And therefore, she's saying, you're not immune for those statements that were false prior to the investigation, as if there wasn't any investigation at all. The statements to a first responder before an investigation was underway that are consistent with efforts to fabricate evidence before the police know of the crime is more akin to cases where the defendants went to the police or communicated with others on their own initiative and published an accusation which might otherwise never have been known. Thus, at this early stage, prior to discovery and assuming the truth of the allegations in the amended complaint, the House defendants have not carried their burden of establishing an absolute privilege to make their initial false statements to the police officers on the scene. Do you see the difference? The investigation had not even started yet, and already she's claiming they made up false statements in an effort to, what? Direct the investigation that would eventually allegedly happen towards her and away from themselves. And those things, she is saying, should not be subject to immunity. And then she goes on to talk about the statute of limitations. And the reason is that you don't even know you have a case until you're acquitted. We talked about that earlier in the stream. And I too think that this is a good argument. Corey, if you're still here, you can let me know what you think about the statute of limitations argument. But I wanted to get to should we do malicious? I wanted to get to the conspiracy claim. Hang on. Because I find that to be one of the better arguments. Oh, please, will I find it? Let's go to the chat while I look for that. Robert says, Melanie, I sent you a link to a new novel set on Block Island. Thank you so very much, Robert, for your 10 and for sending me something new to read. I appreciate it. Crafty Mama says, my son just graduated from college. Woo woo. And is currently on a plane to Hong Kong. You're keeping my mind occupied so I don't spiral with worry. Thanks for all you do. Oh my gosh. Thank you for your 10, Crafty Mama. I'm happy to keep you company anytime. R. Fulkerson says, Melanie, I love you so much. I also have ADHD and wrote a book for girls to focus on the good things about ADHD. It's called Glitter Thoughts and Dino Daydreams. I would love to send you a copy. Why don't you just send me a link to where I can buy it and I'll buy a copy. Thank you so much for your 10 and for promoting your book. Gigi's here. She gifted 5 memberships because she is so freaking, I love that idea though, a book for girls on ADHD. I love that so much. Gigi is so generous. She's always gifting, always. And she also sent me a $50 cash app, says, thanks for keeping me sane. She's recuperating from a shoulder replacement. And so, Gigi, it is my pleasure to keep you company. Thank you for your generosity, as always. And Ms. Jules is here and from Florida, and she gifted 5 memberships too. So there's a lot of new members today, or this evening, I should say. Thank you so much. Nicole says, I listened to yesterday's live on the way to work yesterday. I never heard the intro in the car before. I've been singing in my head ever since. I may have it memorized. Oh, thanks, Nicole. I love you with all my heart too. Phil Gallagher says, hi, Melanie. It's 2 a.m. here in the UK, and I'm over an hour behind just to say hi on our 3-month anniversary. Oh, happy anniversary to us, Phil Gallagher. And thanks for tuning in from across the pond. Thank you for tuning in from across the pond. My daughter and I, for our graduation gift, are going to see Harry Styles at Wembley. We are. And I think it's going to be cheaper to see Harry Styles at Wembley than it would be to see Harry Styles at Madison Square Garden, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. All right. Moving on. Where are we? All right. Civil conspiracy. Intrinsically coercive. I just have to go to where I was. We are. This one has more facts in it, so let's go to this one first. The amended complaint plausibly pleads a malicious prosecution claim. The House defendants make 3 arguments for dismissal of count 5, the common law malicious prosecution claim. I don't know why. I mean, when I go live, I send out a group text. I'm like, I'm going to go live at 7. Don't bother me. But apparently it doesn't really stick. I think it was 7, right? Was it 7 or 8? I don't know. None warrant dismissal. First, the House defendants argued they did not commence or continue the prosecution because Ms. Reed fails to allege that the House defendants took an active role in her investigation or prosecution, and she does not assert that they induced or pressured law enforcement to arrest Reed in any way. This misstates the law. In fact, the contrast between the facts alleged in the amended complaint and those before the court in the case the House defendants rely upon, Limine versus the United States, illustrates why. Limine applied Correos' holding that merely providing information to an investigating officer is not actionable, and that the defendant must have, in some sense, initiated the prosecution. In Limine, the First Circuit rejected a malicious prosecution claim against FBI agents accused of shoring up the false story that was initially provided by a witness in a murder investigation. The malicious prosecution claim failed because there was no proof that the defendants voluntarily reached out to law enforcement officials and caused them to commence a new line of inquiry. Well, she's going to tell us why that did happen in this case. Buckle up, buttercups. This is the chat distracts me. This is why I can't even look at it. People are talking about Crohn's. People are talking about ADHD. People are talking about all kinds. See, I have it. I'm self-diagnosed. So if you're talking about all kinds of things in the chat that are not on topic about what I'm talking about right now, it really freaks me out. It just freaks me out. I don't mean to be like a bubble burster or anything. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with all that chatter. This is important stuff. This is important stuff. Ms. Reed's amended complaint alleges the exact opposite. The essence of her malicious prosecution and related claims against the House defendants is that they initiated the entire prosecution by casting Ms. Reed as the suspect even before the investigation started. You see this? That's why this is different. Ms. Reed alleges that the House defendants directed first responders and investigators to Ms. Reed almost immediately, and the investigators willingly took the bait. As part of a concerted plan to distract from their own guilt, and among other things, they moved Mr. O'Keefe's body to the area in front of the Alberts house, where they later claimed to have seen Ms. Reed drop off Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. McCabe voluntarily reached out to a police officer responding to the scene several hours after the body was found, saying that Ms. Reed had said twice, "I hope I didn't hit him." The House defendants then coordinated a story that Mr. O'Keefe never entered the house. Mr. Higgins and Mr. Albert destroyed their phones, and Ms. McCabe deleted her Google search history to hide any incriminating evidence. Accordingly, the amended complaint plausibly alleges the House defendants initiated the prosecution when they colluded to focus the police on Ms. Reed before investigators even appeared on the scene, cemented their efforts by reaching out to Proctor and others with false statements after the investigation commenced, and then corrupted the ongoing investigation by coordinating stories and destroying evidence that exculpated Ms. Reed. Not surprisingly, and as planned by the House defendants, the Alberts family friend and the lead investigator, Proctor, focused solely and exclusively on Ms. Reed from the very first hours of investigation. Because the amended complaint plausibly alleges the House defendants initiated the prosecution, the malicious prosecution count states a claim under Massachusetts law. It just does. It just does. I think that's a good argument. And here, according to the restatement second of torts, torts was my favorite class in law school. What was yours, Corey? Don't even tell me future interests or property. In order to charge a private person with responsibility for the initiation of proceedings by a public official, it must therefore appear that his desire to have the proceedings initiated, expressed by direction, request, or pressure of any kind, was the determining factor in the official's decision to commence the prosecution, or that the information furnished by him upon which the official acted was known to be false. Oh, Corey liked contracts the best. That's interesting. It's right there in the restatement second of torts. I think that's self-explanatory. The House defendants' second and third arguments overlap. They contend that the amended complaint fails to establish a lack of probable cause and fails to show that the House defendants acted with malice. The malice argument is not developed, but is instead reliant on the lack of probable cause argument. The argument thus boils down to a single assertion, quote, any reasonable person would have suspected Ms. Reed's culpability. They're saying any reasonable person would have thought Karen Reed hit John O'Keefe with her car. The House defendants then cite what they say is incriminating evidence. Her presence the night before in the area Mr. O'Keefe's body was found the next day, a cracked taillight on Ms. Reed's car, and her seeing the body immediately upon returning to the Albert house the morning of January 29th. That's their incriminating evidence. The argument fails because it ignores the salient allegations in the amended complaint. Ms. Reed alleges that the House defendants were responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death based on the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, consistent with being attacked by the Alberts dog and hitting the back of his head on a ridged surface like those present in the Alberts garage. The amended complaint also alleges the House defendants tried to hide their guilt by moving Mr. O'Keefe's body in order to incriminate her. Incriminate her. What did I say? Incriminate? Incriminate her. These allegations, which must be accepted as true for purposes of this motion to dismiss, paint a textbook case of lack of probable cause that the complainant knew the person they were implicating was not responsible. As the restatement of tort second provides, quote, a private prosecutor cannot have probable cause for initiating criminal proceedings against another if he does not believe that the accused was guilty of the crime charged against him. If he does not so believe, it is immaterial that the facts of which he had knowledge of or belief were such that reasonable men might have regarded them as proof of the guilt of the accused. As the House defendants correctly explained in their motion, their conduct must be adjudged by their honest and reasonable belief at the time he instituted the complaint, rather than by what may turn out later to have been the actual state of things. For a 12b6 motion, that honest and reasonable belief must be determined based on the allegations in the complaint and the reasonable inferences in plaintiff's favor that spring from such allegations. According to the amended complaint, here, the House defendants knew at the time they conspired to incriminate Ms. Reed that she was According to the amended complaint here, the House defendants knew at the time they conspired to incriminate Ms. Reed that she was not responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death. Thus, they lacked probable cause for their instigation of Ms. Reed's prosecution. Footnote 3 reads, the House defendants' undeveloped argument that there are insufficient allegations of malice also fails. The amended complaint plausibly alleges that the House defendants framed Ms. Reed to hide their complicity in Mr. O'Keefe's death. That is obviously a wrong or unjustifiable motive. An attempt to achieve an unlawful end or a lawful end through unlawful means, or vexation, harassment, or annoyance. It is the exact opposite of the legitimate purpose of bringing an offender to justice. She's telling us everything, and she's telling us all of the reasons that her complaint alone and the way that she has pled her complaint and her causes of action should overcome this motion to dismiss. And as I said before, it is rare that these motions are fully granted. One second. There we go. Go to the chat for a moment. Lots of new members. Jay McKay became a member. Sooner Girl became a member. Angel the Aussie, welcome to all of you. I think you're going to like it here. Nurse Jones, it's been here for 23 months. You're an OG. Grandson's school band concert last night. Oh, congratulations. Next month, you're going to get a new cupcake for 24 months. Mrs. Park says, LOL, Melanie, I was so psyched. I just thought you were in Florida for Dave Matthews. No, I wasn't. No, I reposted somebody else's on my story. And if you click on it, it'll take you to like the full video of it. Corey Hopkins became a member again. Welcome, Corey. Lisa G, great job as always. Learned so much from you. Thanks for being here for 24 months. You're amazing. Jackie says, happy 2-year anniversary to us. Oh, Jackie, get you a new cupcake. Thanks for being here. Karen says, on another note, have you watched Trial 4? No. Everybody asks me that every single episode, every single show. I have not. Limited time. Every single show, Karen. Everybody asks me. I haven't watched it yet. No, I can't find the time. You all say it's really good. It's Rosemary Scapiccio at her finest. And imagine how mad Rosemary Scapiccio is at Miles King right now. That's just as a side note. Sorry, I haven't watched it, but thanks for being here for 9 months. Doc Morgan, good Friday to you too. Thanks for being here for 15 months. I'm Sue's 28 months. What a great way to spend Friday night. The Preakness is tomorrow, and I plan to get all dolled up for it. Oh, I love it. I love it. Kat Randall has been here for 20 months. The ZZ Top song. Thank you. Thank you. And not paralegal advice, became a member, as did Sheila. All right. Hold on for a second. As I said, we may have to do this in multiple episodes. Thank you, Mrs. Goodman, for your Venmo. She had a very nice Mother's Day. She got breakfast in bed and dinner in bed, and that's amazing. And Kyla, thank you for your Venmo. Says, it's the little things that get so happy when you send out a notification. People have told me they're not getting notifications, and when they go to check if they are subscribed with notifications, it turns out that they are not. And I told you guys this. Remember what I said. YouTube has stopped the way that they do notifications. And if you do not interact with a notification with a certain creator for like a month, they shut off the notifications only for that creator. And so if you're not getting them, it may be why. Because they say in their YouTube logic that if people get too many notifications, they're going to turn off all notifications. Then they're not going to get all the notifications for everyone. And then it's a whole thing and YouTube doesn't like it. So just make sure you have them, that you have your notifications set. Thanks, Amy Adams, for being here for 10 months. You're amazing. You're amazing. Okay. Too many distractions. Okay. So make sure you have the notifications set to all and that you get them and that you interact with them, because YouTube wants to push you towards short form content, keep you away from long form content like this. And also they want to push you towards AI, and AI is destroying the planet. It really is. I'm not kidding. Moving on. Similar arguments are made with regard to the civil rights conspiracy, and that on the papers, the amended complaint plausibly pleads a civil rights conspiracy. That is a section, we refer to it as a 1983 claim. And they're going to tell you exactly what that is right here. A section 1983 conspiracy has two elements. One, a conspiratorial agreement, and two, an actual abridgment of some federally secured right. The House defendants argue that the claim should be dismissed because they are not state actors. We talked about this a little bit at the beginning. However, proof of a conspiracy between state officials and private actors satisfies the state action requirement of Section 1983. And now she's going to tell us why she believes the Haas defendants conspired with actual state actors. And if you do that as a private actor with a state actor, you can be held liable under the federal statute, Section 1983. Conspiracy to deprive Ms. Reed of her Fourth Amendment rights. C, a Dickey's versus H.S. Kress. A private party involved in such a conspiracy, even though not an official of the state, can be liable under Section 1983. That goes all the way back to 1970. Dennis v. Sparks, 1980 case from the U.S. Supreme Court, says private parties who corruptly conspire with a judge in connection with such conduct are thus acting under color of state law within the meaning of Section 1983, as it has been construed in our prior cases. A civil rights conspiracy is a combination of two or more persons acting in concert to commit an unlawful act or to commit a lawful act by unlawful means, the principal element of which is an agreement between the parties to inflict a wrong against or injury upon another, and an overt act that results in damages. So you need an agreement and an overt act. It is not necessary to show an express agreement to prove a conspiracy. Instead, the plaintiff must prove either the existence of a single plan, the essential nature and general scope of which was known to each person who is to be held responsible for its consequences, or at the least that the parties decided to act independently, each actor deciding to act only because he was aware that the others would act similarly. Plaintiff is not required to allege direct evidence of an agreement, but can instead rely on circumstantial evidence. Now she's going to tell us all the reasons why there was an agreement and an overt act, and what circumstantial evidence points to it, and who they are, and what they did, and who they conspired with that are state actors, and why they should be held liable under a federal statute. The House defendants argued that, dispositively, the amended complaint fails to allege any coordination between the House defendant and any state actors. They are wrong. Period. First, there was a pre-existing relationship between the House defendants and the investigators. The Alberts and Proctors were very close, a second family. Proctor, Buchanan, and Tully suppressed the existence of this close relationship, leading to the inference that they knew the connection was improper in the context of an ongoing relationship. In addition, Brian Albert and Higgins worked in law enforcement, which meant, as Proctor admitted to his friends on the night O'Keefe's body was found, before he had conducted any meaningful investigation of the House defendants, that, quote, the MSP are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops, and that Brian Albert would not receive some shit. Instead, Ms. Reed had zero chance of skating. She's effed. A reasonable inference from these admissions is that Brian Albert, Higgins, and Proctor, all in law enforcement, knew the plan. Cops would not investigate other cops. Second, there was extensive communication between Proctor and the House defendants before and during the investigation. And here, Sanchez notes that circumstantial evidence of conspiracy can include communication among officers before the alleged unlawful conduct occurred, coupled with a story that a jury could conclude was fabricated to justify or cover up the original actions. Proctor communicated with Julie Albert, who was related to Brian and Nicole regularly, even speaking to her on his personal phone after his official interview with her. Proctor also spoke to his sister Courtney multiple times a day, knowing that she was in close contact with Julie. Courtney and Julie spoke multiple times in the first days of the investigation and dozens of times thereafter. Nicole Albert was confident she had a back channel into the investigation through Julie, telling Jennifer McCabe in the time leading up to witness interviews that, quote, we'll get more information tomorrow. Don't want to text about it. For her part, Jennifer McCabe visited Proctor's and other investigators' private residences. Proctor also used his personal cell phone to coordinate witness interviews with Brian Albert's brother, Kevin. Third, the MSP defendants acted against protocol and standard investigative practices by not investigating the House defendants. For instance, there was no search of the Alberts' house for ridged surfaces consistent with Mr. O'Keefe's fatal wound. No inspection of the House defendants' bodies for signs of an altercation consistent with Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, and no searches of their cell phones. There was no effort to determine if the Alberts kept any video surveillance at the house. The interviews of the House defendants were unrecorded and took place at their homes, family members' homes, their attorneys' homes, places of employment, or over the phone. The MSP defendants failed to conduct follow-up investigations even after incriminating information about the House defendants came to light, such as evidence that Brian Albert and Higgins destroyed their phones after receiving notice of Ms. Reed's criminal defense team was asking or seeking to preserve the evidence on the phones. How do we know this is improper procedure? Because we looked at and read together the report of Michael Easter, the expert that Karen Reed hired to testify at her criminal trial number 2, who was going to talk about all of the procedures that weren't followed and all of the improper investigative things that were done. And Judge Cannoni just wouldn't allow it because she said the jury doesn't need to hear an expert on that. They're all going to know what proper police procedure is. And you can just cross-examine the law enforcement witnesses about whether or not they did a proper investigation. Give me a break. Give me a break. But these are all the things that Michael Easter said or was going to testify to. And you can bet your ass he's going to testify in this case. In sum, the amended complaint plausibly alleges that 1, Proctor admitted to his friends at the outset of the investigation he was going to make the investigation cut and dry to avoid blaming another member of law enforcement who happened to be part of his second family. 2, the investigation proceeded exactly according to the plan with no focus on the House defendants. And 3, all the while, there were extensive, unofficial, unrecorded communications between the MSP defendants and the House defendants. The amended complaint thus sufficiently alleges circumstantial evidence of a conspiracy that, quote, at the least, that the parties decided to act interdependently, each actor deciding to act only because he was aware the others would act similarly. Tell me what you think. Similar argument is made that the amended complaint plausibly alleges a civil conspiracy among the House defendants, not just between the House defendants and law enforcement, but among the House defendants themselves. Civil conspiracy. A civil conspiracy based on a concerted action theory under Massachusetts law applies to a common plan to commit a tortious act where the participants know of the plan and its purpose and take affirmative steps to encourage the achievement of the result. Okay? A common plan to commit a tort where everyone involved in the plan knows the plan and its purpose, and they all take affirmative steps to encourage the achievement of the result. We gotta try and maybe pin it on the girl. Not involving the police, just among themselves. The amended complaint alleges such a common plan among the House defendants to make it look like Mr. O'Keefe died due to exposure after being hit by Ms. Reed's car, even though they knew he had been killed inside the house or Albert's house or garage as a result of an altercation. The amended complaint goes on to allege that the House defendants took multiple steps to carry out the plan, including moving Mr. O'Keefe's body to the area of the front lawn where Ms. Reed had dropped him off earlier in the night. The House defendants argue that the civil conspiracy, count 7, should be dismissed for several reasons. First, they contend the allegations concerning relocation of the body are vague and speculative. They are not. Period. The amended complaint references the trial testimony of Brian Loughran, Lucky, who drove a snowplow in Canton. He testified he didn't see a body on the lawn in front of the Alberts house at 2:30 a.m. on January 29th, hours after Ms. Reed dropped Mr. O'Keefe, but at 3:30 a.m. did see a Ford Edge, the type of car Brian Albert drove at the time, parked in the spot where Mr. O'Keefe's body was ultimately found. The amended complaint also alleges Mr. O'Keefe suffered injuries consistent with being injured inside the Alberts house, such as bite wounds from the Alberts dog, which had a history of attacking people and other dogs. and a head wound consistent with falling on a ridged surface, such as those present in the Albert's garage. A reasonable inference from these factual allegations is that Mr. O'Keefe was killed or incapacitated inside the Albert's house, and then his body moved at some point after 2:30 a.m. to where it was ultimately found a few hours later. Additionally, during Reed's criminal trial, the medical examiner, a witness called by the prosecution testified that Mr. O'Keefe's wounds were inconsistent with being struck by a vehicle, but rather were consistent with being involved in a physical altercation. Second, the House defendants argue that no conspiracy can exist where an alleged participant lacks knowledge that a wrongful act is being perpetrated and that the amended complaint fails to allege they knew the statements they gave to police were false. This argument fails for multiple reasons. To begin with, the false statements they gave police was only one of the affirmative steps and tortious actions they took pursuant to their conspiracy. The other tortious acts, like moving his body and destroying evidence, are sufficient by themselves to support a conspiracy claim. In any event, the amended complaint does allege the House defendants knew they were lying when they told investigators that Mr. O'Keefe was not in the house. In fact, the amended complaint goes much further and alleges that they knew he had been killed in the house and that they were trying to hide it. And then it goes on for 4 more pages. And I have to go because I have a hard stop. But I do believe that Reed's team made some very good arguments as to why the complaint should not be dismissed in its entirety at this stage. Why? She has pled civil conspiracy, federal conspiracy under 1983 because they conspired with law enforcement, which makes them state actors. I believe that those are good arguments. And we will see where it goes from here. Let me know what you think in the comments, in the chat, and if there's anything that you did not know that you learned from reading Karen Reed's opposition to the complaint. To the motion to dismiss by the House defendants. Okay? Let me know what you think. There are some good arguments. I think she can overcome the motion to dismiss at this point, at least many of the claims, because of the specificity of the amended complaint. Go back and watch that show if you haven't watched it. A lot of it was repeated in these papers, but I think it's a good argument. I love you too. Love from Tejas says, I love you, Mel. Love it. Yvette and Michael say that. Thanks to Yvette and Michael. Cupcake for life. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for being here for 13 months. Let me know what you think. Waves of Salt says, and this is Waves of Salt opinion, they probably would have killed her. I wondered the same thing if he never came home and she drove over there. Could you imagine if she drove over there and caught him, putting him in the yard? It was a great opposition, Robin, right? I thought so too. Everyone smash the like button. Jer said the same thing. I always wondered what would have happened to Karen if she had waited and instead of going home, she went in the house looking for him. Cold Docker True Crime says, this is a nice way to end the week. It was hard watching some of the other stuff this week. Yeah. I had to do this tonight with you because music festivals and Aiden's fundraiser on Sunday. So I will be there Sunday at 3 p.m. with David Unetti at the same time as David Unetti. I think he's got us scheduled for 3 to 4:30 on Sunday. His fundraiser is going to be live from noon to midnight. There's tons of really good guests on there. You're not going to want to miss it. We still don't know if the ALVIN Campbell Jr. trial is going to be live streamed on Monday. So we are in a holding pattern until we know. I hope so, because I really, really want to do that gavel to gavel with you. I hope you guys are interested in it too. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for spending 3 hours of your evening on Friday night with me, depending on where you are in the world. And is anybody watching the golf? It's on Aiden's channel. It's on Aiden's channel, noon to midnight. Sorry, I should have said that. Noon to midnight on Sunday. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy, stay safe. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Thank your moderators. Tip your servers. I'll be here all next week. I love you guys so much. Am I going to be covering the Unetti file? I don't know. I'm sure I will at some point, not tonight. Tonight, I am done and I'm signing off. Love you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out with me. This was really fun. Peace, my friends. I'll see you real soon.